Welcome to the Drew Yari Show.
Hey, what's going on, dude?
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you feeling, man?
Slowly getting over this cold. I don't know. It's weird because like I had Trez on last week and we were talking about colds, and I just mentioned I hardly ever get sick, but when I get sick, it just feels like it lasts for like a long friggin' time.
Yeah. Do you usually get sick, or are you one of those guys who has a real high metabolism and a high a high tolerance, I should say?
I would say maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay.
Like, you know, this last month in July was just like really strenuous because I'm graduating at the end of the year from school.
Oh, and, congrats! What's your major?
Criminal justice.
Oh, wow.
So,
congrats.
Thanks, brother. As part of my degree, I had to do an internship, and I, chose the summer, and I also had to do a summer class, and I also work. So that's a lot. That's a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're probably stressed out. That breaks you down too, you know.
Oh yeah, that's an understatement. Oh, by the way, sweet Captain America poster.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm a huge Cap mark. I've always been a huge Cap mark. I've got posters on this wall over here too. I've got some posters where you can't see them because it's on the flat wall. Yeah. You know, I love Cap, dude. I've always been a huge fan, even since I was a kiddo.
Well, what got you into Cap originally? We're recording, by the way.
Oh, that's cool, man. No worries.
I'm just letting you know.
I just kind of got in, huh?
I'm just letting you know we're recording already.
Oh yeah, no worries, man. Much love to everybody listening, of course. Captain America, yeah, I kind of jumped into that when I was a kid. You know, obviously, my pops was the first one that got me into comic books. You know, like he gave me some of his. Although, you know, him and my mother actually used to collect comic books when they were young, but they collected all the Tales from the Crypt, creepy. Like they were into the horror comics, which was a real big thing, like back in the 70s and stuff like that, which kind of died off, obviously, in the 80s to, like, you know, Captain America and the Avengers and more of the superhero level stuff. Like the superhero level stuff was always there, but comic books used to be also like heavy metal and Conan and Vampirilla. Like they weren't really superhero stuff, but more along the lines of like different kinds of stories. And they were big into like I said, like the creepies, Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show, stuff like that. But they got me into comic books when I was a kiddo. I think I probably, before I was even able to read, I was looking at pictures, you know? And Captain America always kind of stood out to me. It was kind of like, I don't know. It was here was this guy who I always kind of sympathized with because he was out of time. He was always out of place, you know, but because he was, you know, obviously he died during the war. He was frozen technically in the war, you know, and then they thawed him out and he led the Avengers and everything else like that. But I always got into it only because I kind of sympathized with his character. I loved his enemies and I loved, you know, his teammates. You know, I fell in love with some of the characters that he had, like Nomad, U.S. Agent. Like, these were all interesting characters to me. The Serpent Society and Hydra, I mean, these were great villains to me. I know a lot of people, when they think of great villains, they always kind of go over to, like, Batman and the Joker. And that's fair. I mean, the Joker is insane and probably one of the most well-known villains in comic book history, you know? But, yeah, I was on the other side. I was more of a Marvel kid. You know, I didn't even really get into DC that much until I grew up a little bit older and got into like the Flash and Green Lantern and stuff. But yeah, did you ever get in comic books or?
I'm weird because I always describe myself as a late bloomer when it comes to, you know, experiencing and like coming onto things. Like growing up as a kid, I wasn't too big onto comics. Mm-hmm. as far back as I can remember, I remember like the second Batman movie with Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer. I just remember because
she was good looking in that.
hey, she still looks good.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I just remember because my parents would leave me at this daycare with this sweet old black lady. She would call me Mr. Andrews, and I just remember she left Batman Returns on for us to watch. I just remember thinking, like, this is freaking cool. Like, who's this? And someone was like, it's Batman. There's comic books. I'm like, wait, there's books on this? Like books aren't supposed to be fun. And I just remember being into Batman, like, just really young, and I still am. You look at most of the clothes I wear, like probably like 60% of them are Batman shirts. And it's anytime I buy a Batman shirt, I always hear, "Don't you have enough Batman stuff?" I'm like, you can never have too much Batman shit.
Right. I mean, if you're a fan, you're a fan, man. You're a fan for life. I don't know. That's kind of the way I looked at it. Like, I love when people are passionate about something to the point where other people call them out going, "Are you a little weird for having that much?" And it's like, no, I'm a fan.
Like, I'm passionate about what I like. I couldn't care less about what other people think. Like, like wrestling, for example.
That's a hard one, man. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, like, granted, it's nowhere as good as it used to be, but I'm still a fan.
Sure. Right.
It's just that back in the day, if it was Monday, I'm like, I need to get home. I need to watch Raw. I need to see what's going to happen. Now it's just like, oh, it's Monday. I forgot. I'll just look at clips or whatever. I'll watch the pay-per-views, of course, and if I have time, I'll flip on Raw and see what happens.
That's the big word, though. That's the big phrase right there. If I have time, because there's so much of it, man. Like, I love wrestling. I still love wrestling to this day. Obviously, I do a show on it. I try to catch everything live, and that's the key word too. Is I try, because is there enough time? Do I have enough time to do this? Because now you're talking about, when I was a kid, you got Raw. That was it. There was 2 hours, and then maybe Superstars on Sunday. And that was it, or primetime wrestling and stuff like that. But now there's 3 hours of Raw plus Runover. There's 2 hours of SmackDown. This isn't including an hour of 205 Live, an hour of NXT, not including any specials that they put on for the week, like a new table for 3. And, heaven forbid, there's a pay-per-view later on in the week. That's an additional 4 to 5 hours. This is all in 1 week. And it's like, Jesus, this is a full-time job just watching the show.
I know, because I know Joey echoes that a lot. That there's like a dick ton of wrestling. There's WWE, Ring of Honor, PWG, New Japan, whatever. Impact. And then later on, you're talking about Superstars and became Shotgun Saturday Night, Velocity, Sunday Night Heat, Thunder, Monday Nitro.
They have main event now, which is still kind of like that version of the Superstars and Shotgun Saturday Night. It's exactly the same thing, just a different format,
I'm amazed they still have that. That's weird. As far as like going back to the things we like, I'm the kind of guy that when I get into something the first time, I want to know like its history. I want to go back in time and like know everything about it.
Sure.
Then I become obsessed with it. With wrestling, I didn't start getting into it until about 97.
Okay.
Because I remember this guy I used to hang out with in elementary school. I remember we had a sleepover, which sleepovers, that's what people used to do, I guess. And he just brought over a bunch of wrestling toys like Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and like, what the hell is this? And he told me about it. And I remember I started watching WCW first, and then that's when I switched over to WWF, and I just became hooked.
Yeah.
To the point where I just was like telling my parents, what do you want for your birthday? Wrestling. What do you want for Christmas? Wrestling stuff. And it just,
you picked a great time to become a fan, though. I mean, 97 was an awesome year for wrestling. It really was. It was the start of a lot of good fun. I mean, you were right in the smack dab of the Monday Night Wars that were picking up, and then of course the Attitude Era. I mean, a lot of good stuff, man.
That, and also ECW. I think ECW was filming on, like, was it TNN at the time?
Yeah. Were you East Coast? Did you get a chance to watch it?
I lived in San Antonio my whole life, and that's what I was asking because I remember they would show it on TNN. I believe they showed it. They showed it somewhere else. I'm forgetting.
Well, we had it on local channels here in Chicago, so we would have it on TNN. But I think at the time I'm not sure if I had Comcast at the time or if it was like Group W cable or some off-brand cable at the time. But we didn't always get TNN. Like it was really intermittent and it was weird. So on our like local UHF station, they would play ECW at like 3 a.m. And that's how I started catching up with ECW. I knew of ECW for a while because I would tape trade. I don't know if you ever got into that, but those were a lot of fun too. So I would tape trade with people and they would give me ECW and I would watch it that way, but I never had access to like, this is this week's show. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was like a local UHF station or something like that. It was, it was 66 at the time in Chicago. So
yeah, with ECW, I don't know. I always say I wish I was born, earlier, so that way I could have, watched a lot of the good stuff from back in the day transpire. And I was like you said, I started getting into it when it was at its peak, like when it was quite freaking hot. It's. I don't know. We're still hoping it gets better.
It will. I have hope, and I mean, between me and Joey, sometimes I think I have a little more hope than he does. But he sees a lot of this stuff from a very technical way too. Like he's physically got his hands involved in the industry. I mean, obviously, he just counted Kevin Nash as champion not too long ago at BTW Pro, which was fucking amazing and got all sorts of like national news and stuff.
You mean the referee that wasn't happy about Kevin
Yes.
I remember that. They were like
he wasn't too excited to give him that belt.
He just gave him the belt like it was a beer. I'm like, what? Shut up.
Yeah.
With Joey, I love all you guys. I love Joey. Granted, I don't agree with everything he says.
That's fine.
But at the same time, whenever I hear him, talk about wrestling or whatever, especially wrestling, there's never a part in my head that goes, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
It's just like, he can say something that I don't agree with, but I'll still, in my head, go, he knows his shit. He's actually drenched in it.
That's what makes him really such, he really does carry the entire show. I've been doing Wrestling Soup with him now for 8 years, and we've been through some thick and thin, but the one thing that he is always just a consistent bearer of is that he knows how to bridge the gap between the business and the fans. I think his position within the company, because he's been doing indies for so long and stuff like that, and he did get trained, properly by, Killer Kowalski. Was it Killer Kowalski? I might be wrong. But he was trained, officially and everything else.
It was a Triple H school, Killer Kowalski.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, he knows how to verbally bridge a lot of the differences between the casual fans, between the diehard fans, and between the actual, companies and between the actual industry itself. He's phenomenal at that. He knows how to paint the pictures perfectly, so that even people that aren't very, very deep into knowing what's going on behind the scenes can still understand it from a very aesthetic view that everybody can understand. It's a fucking talent. The guy is just extremely talented. Him and John Draper too. John Draper's like a public speaker. Obviously, he's been on stage for different bands over the years and everything else like that. I mean, that guy can talk your ear off for hours.
Yeah, John.
I love John Draper, man.
Like John. Anytime he hears a story, I'm like, dude, how old are you? Like, I don't mean that as disrespect, but it's like watching Forrest Gump. It's like he was in the Vietnam War, then he played football. Then he was in this war. It's just like, like Draper has some stories. Like I love Draper.
Draper's got that world experience, He really does.
I didn't know who he was at first because I just remember hearing him on a random episode of Soup, and he just started doing impressions. I'm like, who's this guy? Like he was just like, he was killing me. And then come to find out he was Kev's brother. I'm like, wait, I didn't know Kev had a brother. And come to find out he's like one of 8 million Kevin Castle's brother.
Yeah, there's an entire clan.
It's like, oh, I got a brother who does podcasts and does this podcast, and then there's a brother who plays for the Mets and he plays for the Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets and is a spaceman. I'm like, whoa, goddamn.
Yeah, his other brother Michael does a horror show. We don't talk about Michael very often. And I know Kevin brings him up every once in a while, of course. But Michael, their other brother, does a horror podcast. Like he's involved in the horror films and the horror industry and everything else like that. So it's like Fangora Audio, you know?
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't listened to that yet because I'm like, I love horror movies. Like that's one of my my many likes. What about you? Are you a fan of horror movies?
I'm a fan of campy horror movies. I'm not really big into like the genuine jump scares and stuff. Like I can't stand jump scares. I think they're so cheap. I feel like a lot of the jump scare movies that are especially coming out today are just really cheap. And a lot of the stuff coming out today is really campy. Like, I'm trying to remember the one where they're all on Skype.
And somebody was Unfriended?
Oh, that is fantastically campy.
I actually like that movie. Like it's so bad. Mm-hmm. And like all the people in it, it's like I feel no sympathy for any of these.
Right, they're all garbage.
But I find myself watching it a lot. Like I'll just be at home and nothing to do. I'm like, oh, Unfriended. Let's turn that on. And then they just.
But I mean, I totally agree with you. I love just those game. I mean, you can go back to like obviously the Nightmare on Elm Streets were very campy, but they're all time classics. You know, people love the Friday the 13th series. I was okay with that. I was more of a Hellraiser guy. You know, I enjoyed all those. And then, I mean, you can go into weird stuff too, like the Evil Deads. You know, 1 and 2 were campy and fun, but at the same time, they were totally horror flicks. And then, like my old man used to get, or I should say, used to get me into like the Crawling Eye and the Ooze and the Stuff. Like the Stuff was about marshmallow fluff that came to life and killed everyone. Like, just these campy horror flicks, man. And it's a lot of fun. I just started getting into a little bit of Grindhouse stuff too, because some of that Grindhouse stuff is classically campy.
Thanks,
yeah.
As far as like campy horror movies, I just lost my train of thought. Did you like Cabin in the Woods?
Cabin in the Woods? I think I did see it. I don't think I thought much of it, though. I mean, it wasn't something that left a mark on me.
I don't know. Like, was it not campy enough, or was you just like was like, meh?
I don't know. I what also happens too, and I'm sure everybody's guilty of this. I will watch a ton of movies and not pay attention. You know what I mean? Like I will have a movie on and I'll have a phone near me, and sometimes something happens on the phone. You know, I'm just as much of a victim of that as anybody else. Like something really has to suck me in order for me to be like, okay, here we go. I'm watching it. You know what I mean?
I'm the exact same way when it comes to wrestling. Like, kind of going off topic. We'll get back on the topic real quick. But sure. I'm not a big fan of New Japan. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like I don't think it sucks. I think it's very good. Those guys are obviously very good. Ring of Honor, those guys are very good. But it's like I kind of posed this question a while back, like who are these people? Why should I care?
Right.
Like, I get very turned off when people say, "Hey, watch this. This is amazing. It's great." Okay, why? Because it's great. Right. It's like with All In when they promoted it, and it's like, well, who's wrestling? It's gonna be great. It's gonna be amazing.
Oh, they did. They sure did that.
we'll get into All In a bit, but like with with movies, if I'm like doing like a paper or doing an online quiz, I'll turn on the TV like to Netflix or whatever. And I'll just put on a movie I wouldn't usually watch, on a given day. Oh, yeah. And I think one time I put on Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
And I just remember doing a quiz, and I'm like an hour and a half in. I look up and the movie's still going. I'm like, how fucking long is this movie? So, I'll do the same thing if I'm reading, and I'll just have a TV show on or whatever. But yeah, I'm the same thing with movies. Like I classify certain movies, like the Marvel movies, DC movies, horror, those are movies I already know I'm going to watch.
Yeah.
But something has to be really good to make me go, okay, I'll spend my money on this.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, totally. I mean, I think I didn't see Deadpool as much as John did. I think John actually saw it like 10, 15 times. It's crazy. I saw it 3 times and went, okay, the new Deadpool 2, because I had to take each one of the kids to it. Because at first I just went myself, and then my oldest is like, oh, I want to go see Deadpool 2. And I'm like, okay, we'll go back and we'll see it again. And then the wifey and the middle child and the girl wanted to go see it too. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll just go back. And so I saw it 3 times, and I had no problem with it. It was a lot of fun. The Blu-ray just came out. I got to pick that up. But, speaking of, I don't know if you have gone to the store to see the movies lately, but if you go to like Walmart or something like that, apparently they worked out some kind of deal where all of the movies inside the stores have Deadpool on the cover of them.
Yes.
I forgot what movie I saw out of the corner of my eye. I was like Wizard of Oz or something, and there's Deadpool on the cover of Wizard of Oz, and I'm like, what the hell? Totally threw me off. And then they have like a whole thing, and it's like, there's a Full Metal Jacket and Deadpool's in it. And I'm like, did they re-digitize these movies with his dumbass in there? And no, they're like, oh no, it's just the cover, but still.
You got my money.
Right? I'm like, that's a hell of a gimmick for anybody that's a Deadpool mark. Like a real, I'm like, all of those movies are getting rebought. Every single one of them,
Like,
that was interesting.
What'd you think of Deadpool 2?
Loved it. Thought it was actually better than the first. It was, the reason I say that, and I know some people will disagree how much they like the first one better. The first one was fine. It was fun, but the story wasn't very big. It was showing the transition of his life into becoming Deadpool, which was most of it, but the actual Deadpool side of things, not so much. He was still kind of just on his own, doing his own thing. But Deadpool 2 really kind of showed the humanity of the character, which is something that a lot of people, grew to see in the comic books over the years too, is that he's not just some crazy son of a bitch with a sword and a gun. He's actually got some humanity to him as well. And the second one, dealing with, now I'm blanking on what the kid's name was.
Like Fire Fist or something?
Yeah, right. And so, anyways, dealing with the kid and stuff like that really did kind of engage, the Deadpool character, and it was a lot better to me. And then, of course, with the death of his girlfriend, it added some humanity towards the end when he finally got to see her. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. It was a little more fulfilling of a movie, and obviously, Infinity War stomped the shit out of it at the box office. But that was expected.
Infinity War? What the fuck's that?
Yeah.
But yeah, with Deadpool 2, here's the thing with Infinity War, you watch it and it just took a lot out of you.
Yeah.
To which everything else that was coming out after that was like, do I really want to watch it? Like, I'll watch it, but is it really going to be that good? And Deadpool 2 ended up being, a lot better than I thought it'd be. Yeah. And, like the whole thing with him and his girlfriend, I was like, are they really gonna make it a romance? But I liked how it came out, especially towards the end. Spoilers, when he's like going back and forth, through time, through reality and like I guess heaven or his version of heaven,
right?
And they're playing Aha, Take on Me, which I'm like. Yeah. That's so corny, but I'm kind of a bitch when it comes to like that type of stuff. So I'm like, okay, you got me, and I liked it. I liked how it turned out. What did you think about the post-credit scenes?
They're fun. I mean, they're always fun. It's what you well. I have a problem with the post-credit scenes.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not necessarily Deadpool, but the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's becoming the norm that you have to stay at the end of the movie. Don't get me wrong. I think they're fun. Like it's a fun Easter egg. But now it's like, in order for you to really catch the story, you have to stay till the very, very end. Like if you don't, you're going to miss something. For example, was it the last Avengers? Yeah. I think it was the Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
We're at the very end of the movie. Fury drops his pager.
Yeah.
And on the pager, it has the Miss Marvel's logo.
Captain Marvel, yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I understand that, but you would think that would be something a part of the main story. Like, that would have been more interesting if they would have had that in the main part of the movie. And then they realize that. And then, obviously, we know next movie, she's going to be there. So, I don't know. It's kind of like it's things that should be part of the main story aren't with some of these extras.
Yeah, because there's a lot of post-credit scenes I've seen in the past movies where I'm just like, you could have easily put this in the movie. Like,
right.
Like with, Black Panther, I think they had like 2 post-credit scenes, and one of them was like, why didn't you just put this in the end of the movie?
Right.
And,
him jumping through time and killing like alternate versions and stuff like that was funny. I was cool with that. I got that. But that could have easily been a part of the main movie and would have made sense still, However, him doing in the first movie, the Ferris Bueller bit, that's a perfect end scene.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really reflect the story at all. Like, there's no actual touch to the continuity. He's just standing in a bathrobe doing the Ferris Bueller bit, making fun of the audience. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. But when it's like when they actually attach storyline elements, those should probably be a part of the main movie. I don't know.
So it's not really, the credit scenes in general. It's more so just like, you could have easily put this a part of the movie.
Right.
And what about scenes that set up another movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, a lot of those should probably be put in the main movie. I mean,
like with the.
But I'm not a director, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's some brainiac in movies that's like, well, this is clearly a better way to hook the audience, and this will drive it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure everything comes down to financials. I'm sure somebody's like, oh, this is a lot better if we do it this way. This will hook the audience for the next movie. So I mean, I can't sit there and say that I'm right. I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have saw that in the main movie. It's not even really anything big. It's just like one of those weird pet peeves that people have.
It started with the first Iron Man when Nick Fury showed up, and
right.
So it's kind of one of them from there. DC hardly does any of them.
Well, DC's trying to change their whole image right now. That's their big thing. Now they're sick of doing dark movies, so. What is it? The TV shows are now getting darker, but the movies are getting lighter. They're like flipping their own script because, I mean, if you look at like The Flash and a couple other Netflix series or TV series that they have, they've always been kind of light, but now they're starting to darken up. And they also got that other series that they're just about to launch. Gosh, is it Justice League? And that's got like a real dark feel to it.
You mean Titans?
Is it Titans that is going to the series?
Yeah, it's going to be on their streaming service. There's Titans.
Right.
There's what is it? Swamp Thing. Is Swamp Thing is Man Thing in Marvel?
Man Thing is Marvel. Yeah.
Okay, then it's Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing, Harley Quinn, and this Captain America looking chick. I'm forgetting her name.
They got Green Lantern Corps. I haven't seen anything for that.
Oh, that's
Suicide Squad 2. That's a movie.
Yeah, Green Lantern Corps, Jeff Johns, he's apparently going to write the script for that. They haven't even said who's going to star in it.
No, it looks like the release date is July 24th, 2020.
Oh, nice.
Oh, well, you know what? Speaking of comic books and speaking of movies and stuff like that, what were your thoughts on the whole James Gunn debacle?
I understand why Disney had to fire him, because Disney is a quote unquote family company that
Sure.
Hires known pedophiles. What?
Mm.
It's like you can hire people who actually diddled kids, but you have to fire someone who made jokes about diddling kids?
Right.
I don't know. They shouldn't have fired him.
No.
I mean, at best, they should have just said, get your shit together. A, B, C, and D. But, now apparently they're going to lose him to DC.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just like, you guys pretty much just shot yourself in the own foot.
So dumb. And then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, somebody said that it's already on hold now.
They're delaying production because they're trying to look for a new director. Mm-hmm. And they apparently, I don't know how you feel about this, they apparently told all the actors in it to go look for other jobs. Oh,
did they really? I didn't even hear that. That's horrible.
Because Batista's already pretty much said, told Disney to go fuck themselves.
Well, yeah, he came out with some kind of like plaque or something where everybody signed it, pretty much standing up for James Gunn, and Disney stuck to their own guns, no pun intended, and continued, with the release of James Gunn. And Batista, I remember reading something that he said, he's like, I'll do it because I'm contractually obligated to. And it's one of those answers that it's like, well, clearly he's not going to put his heart behind this next film if he's involved, So, and if Disney turned around and said something like that, that's silly. Some of this outrage, this outrage over silly things, I don't get it. I'm not trying to make it like an ethical thing, but that's really what it comes down to is somebody got offended by his jokes, even though he told the jokes 10 years ago. It's just like, I think it was more political than anything because people were upset about James Gunn's initial reaction to Roseanne. And they kind of like, I guess people felt like this was kismet. This is, what he deserved. This is karma.
I remember that because I have him on Twitter and I know he's very against Trump. And, I would see people try to expose him and say, oh, he's made jokes about rape and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
There was an interesting article where he apparently outed Jared Leto as being a pedophile.
Yeah.
And, like a pedophile rapist or whatever. And, somebody was like, oh, yeah, well, you've made jokes about women and blah, 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 blah. And then, sooner or later, that's when somebody decided to dig up his tweets from 12 years ago. And
right.
I remember when I read the tweets, I was like, I didn't get them. I'm not the type of person that gets offended too easily. I mean, actually, I'll dial that back a little bit. I can get offended, certain things.
Sure.
But reading these jokes where it's oh, I went to see the Expendables and I fucked the shit out of the little pussy boy next to me. I'm like, what? I didn't understand him. I didn't laugh. But it wasn't outrage. I am outraged, sir.
Right.
You must apologize to me at once.
You weren't pulling off the white glove?
I was pulling out my white gloves. I have been offended.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was context too. Because, I mean, that's one thing a lot of people don't look at, especially when they have the faux outrage and they just want to be noticed for their outrage. They don't look at the context. When he was writing these things 10 years ago, I'm sure there was some piece of shit on a forum that was talking shit about the Expendables, and he responded on his Twitter. You know what I mean? I think of things like that, and this is just the way. Well, 10 years ago, you're a completely different person, I think. In 10 years, if you haven't changed as a person, then there's something wrong with you. Everybody grows. Everybody changes. Everybody even they retract some of their own statements and opinions from 10 years ago. I mean, you can feel one way and then change your mind the next. But him making bad jokes, they weren't good jokes. They were bad jokes. Yeah. Isn't enough to spark this outrage. 10 years ago, I was listening to shows like Opie and Anthony, who continually push the envelope with Jim Norton. And I mean, Jim Norton, who is a very famous comedian now, used to have a character called Uncle Paul, where Uncle Paul, all he talked about was how he was having sex with children. And it's nobody was going to, oh, Jim Norton's clearly having sex with children. No, it was a stupid character. But I mean, the comedy back then, I think, was a lot more violent too. Even 10 years ago, there was a lot more envelopes that were being pushed for the sake of comedy. I mean, from Louis C.K. to Dave Chappelle, a lot of these guys were pushing envelopes. you know. And although I think 10 years ago, Dave might have already been gone at that point, but
Well, he's still making the rounds, and when you're talking about comedy, I just recently started appreciating Patrice O'Neal a lot more.
oh, he's fantastic. The
Because
guy was a legend.
like back then, I didn't get into his comedy. I would see him a lot because I don't know if you remember this show, I love the '80s or I love the '90s or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like one of the people on it, and I thought he was kind of funny, and I looked up these videos on YouTube. It's called Celebrities That Hate PC Culture, and he's had like 2 videos pretty much about him, where he's just saying what's on his mind, and that type of shit wouldn't fly today. Jim Norton,
they would have crucified him.
Jim Norton, I know all about him. Of course you got your and I just blinked. The dude who has his own HBO show.
CK?
Not CK.
Bill Burr?
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's very few people around today that aren't PC, and they just say whatever fuck's on their mind. But you kind of notice this trend of people who are PC are getting more attention, more TV time. Whereas you look at the people that just say what's on their mind. I guess it depends on the network or whoever, but for the most part, you notice people that aren't PC enough. They're not on magazine covers. They're not on TV. They're not in movies. So, yeah, with James Gunn, I really wish they would have hired him back. I mean, apparently they're still going to use his script.
Of course they are.
Yeah, because like he literally wrote and finished the script before I think part 2 came out.
Right.
And they kind of have to use the script because it'd be fucked up if they don't. There's a rumor that the dude who directed Thor 3 might direct it.
Oh, Ragnarok? Okay.
Yeah, Taiki.
Well, that's not a bad idea, too, because Ragnarok was a lot of fun. I forgot. What was his name? David or Duke or something like that? Or no, not David Duke.
the leader of the KKK directed Thor Ragnarok.
Who was that? The leader?
It's like, wait, why is Thor talking to the Grand Wizard?
What's with that hood on Thor there? I never noticed that before.
Why is Loki putting one hand in the air saying white power? But
I'm looking up the director right now.
Yeah,
I forgot his name. Oh no, is that what it is?
He has some weird name.
Waititi?
Taiki Wakiki or whatever.
Yeah, Taika David. Yeah, his name is David. No, I've never heard anybody call him Taika, but yeah, it's David Waititi.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Not Duke, not David Duke, David Waititi.
David
Clearly, you can see how I got that wrong.
Oh, speaking of David Duke, have you seen that movie called Black Klansman yet?
I saw some like artwork for it and stuff like that. I haven't seen it yet. I think I saw a preview, but I you know what? I didn't follow it after that. Like I thought I saw it and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a comedy. It's going to be a silly comedy. But they're like, oh, it's based on a true story. I'm like, really? Yeah, because I haven't seen any of it though.
They push it as a comedy, but I'm pretty sure when you go watch it, it's going to be dark as hell. No pun intended.
Okay.
Like that type of content, with that type of topic is always going to affect people in a certain way. Because I know anyone that I follow or anyone that I know that's gone to see it, says that the whole theater was, really quiet after the movie ended.
Really?
Because, it deals with a very serious subject, about a black man working for the Colorado, PD,
right.
And he decides to infiltrate, the KKK. The main actor is actually Denzel Washington's son, and Kylo Ren plays one of the officers, and he goes in as one of the Klan members. So it looks interesting. Kind of heading back to movies as things I kind of have to be sucked into. That looks like something I want to watch, but at the same time, I have a feeling I'm going to walk out pissed off. Usually movies that deal with that type of real shit, with involving racism, it makes you think, and it affects you in a way because and I don't mean to like bring the mood down of the show, but you're Asian, and I'm part Middle Eastern, and we've both had.
I'm only a half. By the way. I'm not a full Japanese guy. I'm Japanese and Hungarian.
okay, half Japanese, Hungarian, my bad. And then I'm half Iranian.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't deal with the racism as much. I'll still get dumb jokes where I'm just like, ha ha ha, fuck off.
Right.
Growing up, especially after 9/11, that was pretty tough. I had to kind of have thick skin about it, but at the same time, it was just like what the fuck are the point of these jokes?
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of fear. I think that's what it was, too, especially after 9/11. Everybody was terrified. I mean, not just people from the Middle East, not even just people from India. I mean, every single culture was all of a sudden afraid. There were Mexican kids that were getting beaten up because they thought they were terrorists. And it's like, what are you talking about? These Mexican kids have been living in Chicago forever. It's, I think, because I remember the craziness after 9/11. Like, there were streets you didn't even drive down in Chicago. People go over to Little India, which is like Devon and Western and stuff like that. And right past Peterson, for people that are trying to look it up. But you go around that area, a lot of Indian people, a lot of Middle Eastern people in various blocks. It's just, like I lived right around Little Korea. It's just the area. Like, everything is kind of Chicago is segregated, but it's not segregated. It's it's just the way that the city was. But I remember driving down around there, and I just remember how these streets are usually so busy with people, and all of a sudden it was really quiet. Like, you could tell everybody was staying inside. I was like, wow, it was creepy. It was creepy. That was the genuine feel after something like that. So, the whole 9/11 thing was just, it was surreal, It was surreal, I think, the way everybody felt. How did it affect you?
I remember, and I'm probably going to make you feel old saying this, but, like, I remember being in 7th grade,
okay.
And, we were in class, and, at the time on the TV, I look at the TV, I just see all this dust coming. I'm like, what's going on? And they said, the Twin Towers got knocked down in New York, and, that's really all they said at the moment. That's really all my teacher was telling me at the moment, and to find out, what really happened. How it affected me, was like, I had classmates, I wouldn't say classmates, just, I guess, people that I knew and people that knew me, and they would,
sure.
Make stupid, Middle Eastern 9/11 jokes to where, this is going back to what I said earlier, I try not to let things offend me too much.
Right.
But, I just remember we were just having one day, we were just chilling, they started making these 9/11 jokes, and I just went, you know what, fuck this. I just walked home.
Right.
And, where this guy lived, it was, like, up the street. And I remember I told my brother about it. My brother's kind of roughly your height. And he was like, what happened? I told him. And, like, as soon as I told him that, he looked over to that house where that guy was at. Those kids saw my brother look at them, and they just fucking went the other way. Because my brother's not above beating the shit out of, small children. Well, back then. Right. Back then. Not today, because that's illegal, quote unquote.
Right.
And so we dealt with it, and they just, they gave me their phony baloney apology because they're forced to.
Right.
But, with my dad, I'll be honest, I never asked my dad how it affected him too much. My dad's from Iran. My mom was born, in Pittsburgh. So, I never really talked to him too much about that. I know that apparently at the time they wanted to start. That's when they wanted to start a war with Iran, Iraq, and it pisses him off to this day. Shocking. But I don't know. Like 9/11, that was a weird time. It was one of those times where we, not to get corny, but it was one of those times where we all like stood together.
Oh yeah,
as a nation. But
did you feel like you were too young to truly understand what was going on at the time, and a little bit defenseless as to what to do about it?
oh yeah, definitely. Because I just knew what I knew,
Yeah.
but like you just said, I'm thinking in my head, what can I do though? I'm a kid.
Right.
Now that I'm a lot older and I'm seeing everything else is going on in the world, I'm like I can help.
Right.
I can easily just go down to the hospital and just donate like $10 to whatever. I could go
Oh yeah,
downtown.
you can go give blood, and you can go do the work. Like, I mean, I hate to say that if America ever hits another 9/11 or something like that, but I mean, now that we're older and stuff like that, there's a lot more that we can do. Like, even at the time, I mean, the first thing that we all did was me and my friends, my core group, we all ran down to give blood. Double doses for all of us. Because they're like, well, they need blood, and they're like, well, I got blood. You can have some of mine. And somebody actually brought it up on Breakfast Soup like a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago, and they were asking, why don't you tell us about your 9/11 story again? And I thought it was really weird and kind of off the cuff, but I was like, yeah, at the time, we wanted to go to New York. There was, I don't remember exactly where we got the information. I think it might have been either the TV or it was actually at the clinic where we were donating blood. But they're like, yeah, they're looking for bodies to ship them up to New York to help dig out rubble and stuff like that. And we all made the drive. And I think by the time we got close to O'Hare, they were already saying, yeah, turn around, you guys. We don't need you anymore. It's already full up and stuff like that. So it wasn't even like we even got to the tarmac or anything like that, But we were real willing out of the sheer blue. I mean, we all had jobs the next day, but it was like, damn be the job. We wanted to go to New York. And I think there's a lot of mentality that wasn't just us, but I mean, there's a lot of people that just wanted to help. And it was really an interesting time because there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of anger. And there was a lot of altruism from people, where normally there might not be any, So it was an interesting time, and sometimes our country forgets that, I think.
Yeah, our country,
But,
our country is kind of becoming WWE. They kind of want to wipe out certain parts of history.
Yes, they do. If they can't make a video game or a movie out of it, they sure do want to wipe it out.
It's like, this is the first time this will actually happen ever. No, it
Right.
didn't.
You're not going to find any new games about Contras in Nicaragua. Yeah, we're as dirty as we are clean. I mean, America definitely likes to celebrate the good things that it does, but it definitely shuts the fuck up about all the dirty things our government does too. So
It's like, nope, that doesn't happen.
right. So I know you got a couple questions. People wanted to know about what was it, like video games or wrestling games or something like that?
I will pull that up right now. Terry Ansell wants to know favorite console ever and game.
Oh, see, most people know that I'm a PC guy. I'm a diehard PC gamer and everything else like that.
Oh,
but in the console days,
you're one of those people. Something.
Yes, I'm one of the PC master race. You know what? I love the original old school Nintendo Entertainment System, the old gray box. I mean, I had the Sony PlayStation, and I had a lot of fun with the Sony PlayStation and stuff like that. But there's something very nostalgic and warm every time I play Nintendo games. Like recently, I've been picking up Tecmo Super Bowl, and I've been playing that online and stuff like that, and playing that on the computer because you don't need a Nintendo anymore because you can get all of the old school games for free.
Yeah, like the emulator, like the emulators and shit.
Right. So, but I still have fun. Like I don't know. It reminds me of the days, I mean, I first got a Nintendo back in '85, so I was really young at that point. I think I was like 6 or 7, 84, 85 when it first came out. And I had Mario and Duck Hunt, and I had the power pad for, I think it was like track and athletics. And then there was the Gizmo with the little robot, and that you would play. I forgot which one. It was a game with the pipes. Like there was a whole bunch of stuff. And then there was like Of course, WrestleMania was a big game, but I actually enjoyed other wrestling games like Tecmo and Pro Wrestling and Muscle. Like I was all about wrestling games even as a kid. But yeah, favorite console, I have to go with the original gray box. What about you?
I've been like trying my best to buy a Nintendo 64 because when I was 9 or 10, 8 or 9 or 10, one of those three, I got a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, and one of the games was WCW NWO Revenge. And I just played the shit out of that game. I loved it. Favorite game ever? Oof. That's a toughie, because I can't really say ever, because...
So they mean favorite game for the console, or do they just mean in general favorite game, you think?
I think maybe for the console.
Okay.
If it's for the console, WWF No Mercy.
Oh, that was fun. I remember that. I used to like that in Royal Rumble.
Oh,
Royal 64. Yeah.
Royal Rumble, WWF Attitude for PlayStation. As far as as far as a greatest game for any console,
Right.
That's kind of hard because I play the shit out of all the Batman games that recently came out for Xbox. Yeah. Batman fanboy over here.
Good.
I love Destiny.
Did you like the latest one where Joker dies?
Wait, what?
Was that Arkham Knight? Wasn't that Arkham Knight?
Wait, what? He died? No, yeah, Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight, he dies in that. As a matter of fact, he actually died in Arkham City.
Did he?
Yeah, he died at the end of Arkham City because he was actually already dying.
Right, he had some disease or something like that.
So I think he was already lingering in part 1, and then he was I'm
City
dying.
was part 1 or City was part 2? Was Asylum 1 or 2?
There's Arkham Origins, which
that's right.
which came out after City. So I guess you can count that as part 1, I guess. And then there's Asylum, which I can play that over and over again, never get tired. Arkham
there was
City.
a 2D game that they had in between those two, too, didn't they? It was weird 2D side scroller kind of game that they had in between that.
Oh, you mean the PCP games or PSP?
No, it was a PC game. It was a console / PC. You know what? I will look it up right now. Hold on.
Isn't it called Blackgate or something?
Yeah, yes. I think that's exactly what it's called.
Then, Arkham Knight, which I technically still haven't beaten it because they're all about side missions, and I've had the game for 3 years and I still haven't finished all the side missions.
Mm.
So I'm just like, you know what? I finished the actual story. I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. Any other game of Destiny? I'm a big fan of Destiny.
Okay.
How do you feel about Destiny?
I watch my kiddos play it all the time. Actually, they're playing Destiny 2 now, but yes. I watch them play it all the time. They had a lot of fun with it. It looked like a lot of fun. I just didn't get into it. It was kind of it looked like a retreading of Halo, except a lot deeper.
That's what I said. The first time I saw it, I was like, is this supposed to be a sequel to Halo or a spinoff?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a part of the same studio that does Halo. Because there's supposed to be another game that's coming out next year. I think it's called, Anthem or... Well, not Anthem. I forget what the fuck it's called. But I'm like, it looks just like Halo. And one of my friends I work with, he's like, no, it's not really Halo. I'm like, is it really though? They're in space and they're fighting aliens. It looks like Halo. I'm telling you, I'm just calling a spade a spade. But yeah, to answer the... Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, go ahead then.
Did you jump on board with everybody else on the Fortnite bandwagon yet?
I have never played a game of Fortnite.
Attaboy. I can't stand it. Yeah, I was a big PUBG player. I enjoyed PUBG a lot, and I enjoyed DayZ. DayZ kind of progressed into PUBG in a weird way. It was a nice hybrid of those systems, even if people don't want to compare them. But there was a community from DayZ that jumped over to PUBG. PUBG was a lot of HZ1. H1Z1. That was a lot of people that jumped from that, obviously, over to PUBG. But PUBG was perfect. And then they took a weird step. I think they got greedy when they started adding in all these, like, extras. These, not DLC, because it wasn't actually content. It was just like skins and stuff like that. Because for a while there, and it's really crazy, but if you had like the original articles of clothing, like the trench coat was going for over $1,000 at one point. And people were selling and buying this stuff at like $1,000. I'm like, this is insane. I never understood that. Like that Counter-Strike does that too. Team Fortress does that too, where you can like win skins of things, and then these skins become worth so much money. I did a little bit with it with Rust. I made some dollars off of it, but I just don't understand. Like, I bought everything for retail price. Like with Rust, I was a big Rust player, and I'd buy everything like 99 cents. And then I come back 6 months later, and people are going to spend $20 on something I spent 99 cents for. Of course you can. Of course you can have it. Give me back the $19. But I just don't understand the mentality. Like, oh, this thing is so cool that I will spend literally 20 times its original amount in order to get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird to me. And it's not even like it's a real thing. It's a digital skin. It's just it's a line of code. It's just amazing to me how that works. But yeah, I never really got into CS because of that. And Fortnite has all that too. PUBG has it. And I think that's kind of killing a lot of these games for me that everybody finds so popular.
Yeah, because I'm just like, when I play video games, I just like to have fun. One of my closest friends I've known since I was a kid. His name happens to be Anthony as well. He likes to be competitive with everything. Like, for example, I'm a big Pokemon fan. I play the games. I don't do the card games. I don't do any.
Did you do the Go?
Pokemon Go for like a week when it was popular for a week. Yeah, we're heavily into that, and I just play the game to have fun. I care about the story and just doing that. He's all about, I have to get the bleeper blur, or the skins, or the powers and the yada yada yada. I'm like, have you actually even played the game yet? No. I'm like, why the fuck did you buy the game then? And he's like, I don't know. He's always very competitive. I'm like, dude, just have fun.
Right.
And that's why I really play the games. I'm not really into online play all that much. With Destiny, you need internet to play it.
Yeah.
For some weird reason. With Fortnite, I've never been into things. I've never been into fads. If that makes sense. Like, Fortnite's a huge fad.
Sure.
Like, you look at anyone's, Twitter, Instagram, they're like, I'm playing Fortnite, yada yada yada, and it just never appealed to me. Not because I'm being a rebel. I'm like, I'm not playing this game because other people like it. I'm just like, if you guys like it, that's cool, but it just
doesn't appeal.
It looks like a basic game.
It does. It really does. I think it's really weird that a game that looks like Fortnite is so popular. What was it before Fortnite? It was another game.
League of Legends?
I've already forgotten. No, not League of Legends. That actually lasted for a while. That has some longevity to it. Oh, come on. Everybody was playing it on Xbox and everything else. Gosh.
Call of Duty?
No. And as soon as I say it, I know you'll recognize it. Shoot.
Like, was it similar to Fortnite, or?
Oh, no. It was an FPS, and you worked in teams. It was two teams versus each other.
Oh, was it Overwatch?
Overwatch, yes. Overwatch was huge for a minute there. Everybody was playing Overwatch. Everybody was a part of Overwatch. Fortnite came out, no more Overwatch. I don't see anybody talking about it anymore. It's kind of funny,
That was actually a fun game. It was kind of underrated. It's not. I mean, Fortnite. I'm just gonna say it's overrated. It's immensely overrated. Mm-hmm. Even though I haven't played it, it just looks overrated. Overwatch. Like you said, it was it was kind of something for a minute, and then it just went away real quickly.
It was really big for a minute, though. I mean, it had a hell of a hype to it. There was a lot of hype behind Overwatch, and it wasn't like the game underperformed, because I saw tons of people that were having a great time playing Overwatch. It's just it didn't make it. Like Fortnite came out, and all of a sudden everybody forgot. And I'm like, that's sad. And then the same thing with PUBG. When Overwatch came out, I think a lot of people started leaving PUBG, and then everybody went over to Fortnite. And it's kind of like that's how video games are now. Like the days of playing classics, like all-time classics, like even with Batman, the Batman trilogy, you don't get that anymore. Matter of fact, it's really weird to play a true single-player game in 2018. I think the last true single-player game that made any kind of headway was Fallout 4.
Yeah, Fallout 4 I played for a bit, and I couldn't get into it. I'm weird because for the past couple years, I really started getting into watching video game walkthroughs. And,
okay.
I got into Up, Down, Down, and
Sure.
a couple other video game channels. I love watching, the Resident Evil games and Last of Us, but it's one of those things where it's like, if I play it, I'm gonna suck at it, because with Resident Evil, it's a fun game to watch other people play,
right?
But you play it yourself. Well, in my experience, it's like, instead of just like Halo or whatever, you step over something and you get ammo or whatever. With this, is just like, okay, go in the items menu, go this place, put this here and put this back there. It's like, can I just have my bullets, please?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know. I'd rather watch it and not play it.
I think a lot of games also suffer from complexity. Like, it seems like a lot of developers will throw in a crafting system just because they want to appease the people that like crafting, and also because they feel like it gives the game more depth, when in reality it doesn't. It's just another thing to deal with. Certain games absolutely need crafting. Certain games, they live and die by crafting. That's just one of those things that, these companies add in order to give you the illusion of, oh, look, not only that, but we have a crafting system too. I think Fallout 4 suffered, honestly, a little bit from the crafting system. I think the game would have been a lot more wholesome and enjoyable if they would have focused more on the graphics and the actual storyline. There was too many plot holes, not enough answers. It just really kind of felt empty. I mean, when you compare it to earlier games in the series, obviously like Vegas, there's no comparison when it comes to the storyline. But with Fallout 4, there's so many limitations. It was the illusion of being an open world game, but it was actually very linear in a lot of ways, and it's very hard to find games that can really handle being those long lasting types. That's why it's because the games are simpler back in the day from like Nintendo or PlayStation or even earlier PC games. Because of that simplicity, they can last forever because you know what you're getting with the game. You're not looking for anything deeper. If you're playing Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Wrestling, it's literally just those 8 guys or whatever that you're wrestling with, and you're having a match. Or even if you go back into the WCW games, like the Monday Night Raw versus SmackDown, like fantastic game series. It's just, you knew what you were getting. There was no surprise. Look at, and that's not necessarily that all surprises are bad, but at the same time, I think that developers cared a little bit more back then. I think that the direct, I guess, audience or the people that they knew that they were subjecting this game to, like the actual core demographic, there you go, the demographic of these games was appealed to. Like, they knew exactly who they wanted to get to. But now games like Fortnite, it's simple graphics, so all the people that are all about like high tech, like realistic graphics aren't gonna really appeal to the game. But they have a crafting system, so people that like crafting can be a part of it. But it's also a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter, depending on what server you're on. You know, it's just it's like, oh, and you like skins? We got skins too. It's like it's like the what do they call it? The jack of all trades, the master of none. I think that's where the appeal comes in, but it doesn't really fly with me. If I want to play a horror game, I'm going to play a horror game. I want to play a wrestling game. I want to play a wrestling game. I don't want to play a wrestling / crafting / first person shooter / you know what I mean? Like, that's just me though.
I think the one thing in my opinion that, hurt games was like, oh, you want this extra item? Yeah, well, you have to pay me $5 for it. What?
Ah, yes, the pre-purchase order. The Division 2 is about to come out. The beta is being released soon. The game is dedicated for, I think, March.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit later in 2019. But for $195, I can get the ultimate gold package with a dark zone statue, which gives me a bunch of add-ons like skins in the game and all this worthless shit. And but yeah, $195 or something like that, and I get a little statue, and I get a collectible audio CD of the music and stuff, and I'm just like, and when the game comes out on the first week, it'll be $60 on the computer, and it'll be even cheaper than that within 2 weeks because everybody will have the 20% off, at Humble Bundle or GOG or something like that. And so within 2 weeks, you can spend $50 and get the exact same game.
With PC games, do you just buy it online and then install it on your computer, or how does that work?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it depends on who. Like Steam and Uplay, they store them on your computer, but they keep your accounts online. So your account always remembers what games you've purchased. PlayStation, though, is different. PlayStation now has like an online, because I really want to pick it up. I know Wookiee. I don't know if you know Wookiee or not, but
I know
Wookiee, I think he just got the PlayStation Network. I haven't talked to him about it, but we were eyeballing it before because I've never played Red Dead Redemption, and I've always wanted to play Red Dead Redemption. It's one of those games that I've never seen anybody say anything really bad about the game, and I've wanted to play it, but PlayStation now has some kind of a network where it's a cloud-based game. So it's a cloud-based account completely. So I guess I don't download the game at all. I just play it online. So I don't know. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm still looking into it. But I'm kind of enthralled with that idea because anything that doesn't store more stuff on my computer is a good thing. So
I know Xbox kind of does. Xbox One does something similar.
Yeah, they have Origins.
Yeah, they.
Oh, that's EA. That's EA. My bad. That's EA. Sorry.
Like with Xbox One, you have to install the game, and which I hate that because it's like as soon as I get a game, I want to play it, but then I have to wait like an hour for it to fucking install. And I asked my friend about it. I was like, "Why does it need to install?" He's like, "Oh, they're all about the cloud and blah blah blah." Whereas 360 or past games, you just put your game in and whoop, there you go.
Yeah,
play it.
Right.
With this is just like, okay, I have to go to work in 3 hours. I have to go to work in a couple hours. Let's play this game. I'm waiting there for an hour. I only get to pay for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I got to go to work. So it's like, fuck.
They don't even really sell PC games anymore. Like, it's kind of rare to find anything like mainstream, like a AAA title in a box. Like 10 years ago, you could still get a ton of games that were still in boxes. Like you want to pick up the new, shoot, what was I going to say? Diablo 2. Oh, get Diablo 2 in the box. No problem. Here's all the fucking extras, blah, 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 and now it's like, oh, I want to pick up the new Fallout 4. Well, here's the lunchbox. Like, I have the lunchbox. Apparently I don't have it readily available. I thought I did. But I got like the lunchbox for the game and stuff like that. And inside it came with discs. But as soon as I install the disc, it tells me, oh, well, you have to download it through Steam.
Okay.
That's exactly what it says. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I mean, it has nice artwork in there. It came with one of the little bobbleheads, like the little Vault-Tec bobbleheads and stuff like that. But, no, you put in the disc, and the first thing it says is, do you have Steam installed? And it's like, yes. I mean, you have to download it through Steam. Like, what's the point of putting it on a disc? You literally put like a 14 meg installer on a whole disc. Ugh, boo. Boo.
Boo. Now we're still on video games. Andrew914 from Twitter asks, what are the most disappointing wrestling video games you experience, and is Fire Pro upcoming for PS4 worth buying?
Oh, I'm looking forward to the new Fire Pro. Fire Pro is a sleeper hit. It's a sleeper game. I still think that it's really virtually unknown, and I haven't seen the new one yet. I haven't gotten into the new one. But if it's anything like the Fire Pro that's on, Steam and stuff like that, the best part about it is the fact that the community can make up everything and anyone, and that is so much fun. I know that the new upgrade that they have for Fire Pro for PC is going to add a new booking system.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be their attempt at trying to pull in people like me who are diehard Adam Ryland TEW players. Mm. And for people that don't know, TEW, EWR back in the day, but Total Extreme Wrestling or Total Extreme Warfare is the premier and only booking simulator for wrestling. I know that there were others that tried it. I think like the M. Dickey series kind of tried it. They tried to do like a hybrid between that and wrestling, but it was kind of silly back in the day. And I know that there were some other ones that attempted along those lines. I think even WWE kind of did it, but nothing compares to the amount of depth that TEW does with booking. So I'm kind of hoping that Fire Pro, takes all the positives from that and squeezes it in to, Fire Pro Wrestling. Because honestly, if you merged both of those games, I don't think I would have ever played another wrestling game as long as history continues. Like, it is literally too perfect because on one side, you have complete control over the wrestlers, the rings. I mean, the way that they look, the wrestlers, the rings, the promotions, the refs. I mean, everything. Everything you have complete visual control. And even if you're not an artsy fartsy kind of guy, there's still like a million people out there that are designing the skins for you, that are making it on their own and stuff like that and uploading it. And on the other side with the booking, same exact thing. Even if you're not some crazy detailed psychopath when it comes to simulations, there are people with mods that will mod up the rosters, will mod up the federations, will have the correct sponsors and TV networks and everything else like that. And they'll go ahead and do that. And like the perfect game would be both of those mixed, but it just sounds so insane to do.
Yeah, I remember. I vaguely remember Fire Pro Wrestling from back in the day because I knew you could. I knew they had it for Super Nintendo, I believe. Yeah. And I vaguely remember it. And I remember you guys brought it up before.
Yeah.
I saw the commercial for the new one. Kenny Omega and his boyfriend, whatever the fuck that guy's name is, Coda. Coda. Yeah, the Golden Lovers. They were promoting it in a commercial. I'm like, oh, it looks interesting. And what you just said, you could make your own creation, community creations, like anything. Which
he's a smart guy. I you know what? Since you brought him up, he just attached himself to what is it, Razer? He does all the keyboards, and he's like the spokesperson for Razer for like Microsoft or for mice and keyboards and display monitors and everything else like that. And I'm like, that, and I even said it on Twitter when I first saw it. I'm like, that is probably the smartest endorsement I've ever seen. Because if you really want to talk about who your core audience is, who's Kenny Omega's core audience? People that probably play computer games and people that, use like high tech computer devices and stuff like that. I'm like, that's brilliant. I'm like, shit, WWE doesn't ever think like that, which always kind of makes me like, oh. Some of their choices, like, oh, we got Skittles this week, guys. All right.
Or, that fucking dumbass commercial with Enzo doing KFC or Popeyes, where he's like, that delicious gold and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, nobody, I don't know. You're right. I'm I don't know, I guess yeah, you're right. Kenny Omega attaching himself to something that he knows people are going to go after, and the fact that
Right.
he's popular within that community.
He's not doing anything to embarrass himself. He's not like Dolph Ziggler dressing up like the Colonel. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those commercials with wrestlers in it, it doesn't even matter if it's WWE. Impact used to do some car auto commercial.
Yeah.
And those were horrible.
Or I remember AJ Styles, when he was in TNA, he did a commercial for some like baseball game. I think it was MLB 2K. Like,
Okay.
my name's AJ Styles, and when I feel like swinging a bat, I play MLB 2K. And it's just like, AJ, just it's like AJ, just please leave that company already and come here, and he did. But yeah, with Kenny Omega, would you give that 6 stars?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I think it's smart. I think, him doing that because wrestlers are often portrayed as cornball idiots.
Yeah.
They really are. Like, even in 2018, even though the product dimensions have completely changed from the 80s, the stereotype of what wrestling is these are just cornball meatheads.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, not anymore. I mean, once upon a time, but I mean, this was also at the same time that we were all going to the theater to see Commando and Predator and like all these cornball action flicks, like Thunder in Paradise with Hulk Hogan. It's just those times have changed, and I think it's kind of sad that even while the KFC commercial, like you brought up, wasn't that long ago. And they were still being treated like complete fucking cornballs.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. And so somebody like Kenny Omega, who's, like him, love him, dislike him, whatever, or nothing, you still have to take into account is that's a complete image change from what we're commonly used to seeing. Here's a wrestler who's, he's not an idiot. He's using computer devices that I use. He's using high-end computer devices that I use. You know what I mean? Like he's attaching himself to something better. There's a few people over the years that did that. Steven Richards, I loved Steven Richards, especially back in the day and stuff like that. But he went over to Fox and he was their tech guy. And like every other week or something, he'd come out on like Fox News and stuff like that and introduce like new computers, new software, like all this stuff. And it's like, well, you're not supposed to know that because you're a stupid wrestling guy. Well, that's a surprise. Steven Richards is fucking intelligent, really, really intelligent, And same thing with Kane. Look at Kane. Oh, why is Kane going to run for a political position? He's big dumb wrestler guy. He blows shit up. No. Kane is like this really well-spoken libertarian, and people can't handle that. They just want to like pigeonhole the companies, WWE and Impact go with what they believe that the networks and their sponsors believe. Oh, wrestlers are just a bunch of dumb cornballs, meatheads. And here you have all these guys breaking molds, and it's not just them. There's a lot more guys that are doing it too, but it's good. It's good when I see things like the norm being thrown away for something unique,
So why, in your opinion, do you think WWE doesn't do that? Because like with NJPW, they're allowing Kenny Omega, money. With Kenny Omega, he's doing something smart, like what you just said. With WWE, you and you Draper, Joey have always said this. They don't promote something that they didn't create.
Right.
Like, with Batista, he's hit it big with Marvel, and they don't promote that. With The Rock, they don't promote his shit. But
right.
They went out of their way to promote Triple H as Vampire number 3 in Blade Trinity. Look at me, I'm fighting Blade.
I make a good vampire. Yeah, dude, you're that's exactly what it is. WWE does not like promoting what they haven't created. And I think a guy like Kenny Omega probably gets a lot more leeway as an individual. I don't even think NJPW would interfere with something like that. Like, I'm not sure the details of the contracts between him, Kenny Omega working for NJPW or, like a Dolph Ziggler working for WWE. But I think for the most part, Dolph Ziggler can't go out there and get an individual endorsement from a company without WWE say so, because they view Dolph Ziggler, not Nick Nemeth, but Dolph Ziggler as a WWE property, where Kenny Omega, even though he's probably considered an NJPW property, they probably give him a lot more leeway to do what he wants. And in that way, Kenny Omega is allowed to succeed or fail on his own. So when he makes the individual choice to go and do something and like getting in bed with Razor, it's just smart business.
That's the thing I don't get. It's like, don't you think promoting this stuff could bring more eyes to the product? Like, for example, for example, when Guardians came out, it was white fucking hot. You could have brought back Batista to do an angle where he's like working with, I'll just throw it a random name, Brock Lesnar.
And he wanted to. That was the crazy thing about Batista. I remember he was even throwing up tweets and stuff like that. He's like, I'm just waiting by the phone there, H, or Trips. He's I'm just sitting by the phone.
You could have done an angle where like Chris Pratt or whoever, one of the stars of the film shows up and, Brock Lesnar beats him up and, Batista's like, I'm going to kick your ass, for hurting, my friend Star-Lord. That would have been fucking huge. I mean, it would have been corny, but it would have been fucking huge.
I mean, even if they didn't want to go down that route, they could have still brought Batista back in anyways, just for a week or two. And they could have had him stand in the middle of the ring and cut one of those, I'm the evil heel promos. And he could have said, well, you people don't know what's good, but I'm making Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is going to be in local theater. You know what I mean? Like, he could have easily done that. And they're just, I think they get jealous. I don't know what it is. They get jealous of people's success outside of the company, as opposed to wanting to envelop them and sit there and say, hey, look, you've done so great since you've left us. Thank you. And for making us look good in comparison, which they do. People still consider Rock a wrestler.
Yeah.
I mean, he's at a million friggin' movies, since he's left WWE, but
he has a movie that's coming out next week and the week after I'm playing. It's like, I don't give a damn. At the end of the day, I'm going to call him The Rock. I'm never going to. I refuse to call him Dwayne. But, like, do you think this jealousy thing, do you think it comes from Vince McMahon or Triple H?
I think everything still comes from Vince. Because at the end of the day, he's the absolute control of the company.
I don't know about that, because I'm sorry for cutting you off, but like, I don't know. I think Vince would want to put this out there because let me kind of like think of an example.
Sure.
With Batista, with The Rock, and they're making their movies outside of the company. And, now you got John Cena, and they're not promoting his stuff. And, for a while, we had, the reign of Cena.
Well, they promote John Cena's WWE films, the stuff that he does with WWE Studios. They obviously absolutely promote the hell out of that. But stuff that he did outside, they promoted the hell out of that. But they didn't promote his movie with Amy Schumer.
Oh, no.
Right.
And they're not going to promote, Transformers or Bumblebee. That's what he's doing.
Right.
Where he's apparently going to be a heel. So, but I don't know. I just find it odd they don't promote, their biggest stars. But it's like, hey,
that's why I think it's got to be jealousy. Like,
watch Ted DiBiase in the Marine 12. Why? So it kind of reminds me of that story with CM Punk where he said that he was supposed to be the new spokesperson for Slim Jims.
Sure.
And like he apparently got an email, like a chain letter from Paul Heyman saying, "Hey, read this." And Slim Jim is saying, "Hey, we want CM Punk for the, as a new spokesperson." And WWE replied, "You don't want CM Punk. You want the Big Show, R-Truth, and Eve Torres." And it's like, okay. And then the week after that, 2K wanted him as the person on the new game, and they said, "You don't want CM Punk, you want Sheamus."
It just happened with someone too. You're bringing this up as an example, but you got a good point. There was somebody that was supposed to do an advertisement with WWE, and this is one of those things kind of like that just zipped through my wire. Like people were just talking about it behind me, and I'm trying to remember. They were supposed to do a commercial, And WWE pretty much did the exact same thing that you just said. You don't want him. And now he's not doing anything. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it might have been me and Joey talking about it. But yeah, they do that. They still do that to this day. It's really weird. I don't get it. That's why I said it's got to be jealousy because, I mean, clearly there's money in it. And if the company was completely based about money, which is obviously people look down on it like, well, you can't be about money. You got to be about altruism and philanthropy. No. If the company is just flat based about money, then it's very simple to understand the goals of the company, because then the goals of the company are about making the fans happy and making the sponsors happy, and that's it. And that's all you need. But they have all these little caveats in everything that they do. These microaggressions that they throw on their workers, and I don't get it. Like, I mean, for the longest time, I remember when Braun Strowman didn't even have a shirt.
Yeah.
He didn't have the "I'm not finished with you" shirt. And everybody's like, I want a shirt. I want a shirt. I want a fucking shirt. Where can I get a shirt? 3 months later, they bring out the Braun Strowman Monster shirt.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, it's a Braun Strowman shirt, but it doesn't have the catchphrase that he's been using for the last 3 to 4 months, And another person was Luke Harper.
Yeah.
That was another one, too. Everybody asked for a Luke Harper shirt. So what does WWE do? They came out with a black tank top shirt. Solid black, and they sold it. I think they might even still sell it too. I'm not even 100% sure, but they did. And they came out with a solid black tank top shirt, and they sold it on WWE.com. And I'm like, wow, like, come on, something. Give the guy something, They're silly like that, though.
Like, with Luke Harper, what do you think they're going to do with him now that Roman's out?
Well, I mean, the rumor is that they're trying to rebuild the Wyatt family, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of team back up with Wyatt. It would make the most sense. But Eric Rowan, man, I kind of stand by what I said on Thursday. I'm like, 3 times you're done. They've got to be looking at this guy going, he's made out of paper.
Yeah.
He's a huge guy, and I mean, I know Joey doesn't think he has a look. I think he looks menacing. I'm like, if I saw that dude coming at me, I'm going to try and duck the fuck out the way. Trying to get out the way. He's a big guy. He's scary. He's a ginger, the whole goat mask and everything else like that. It's like, yeah, he's a scary looking dude. But yeah, the fact that he's constantly injured, they got to be looking at that going, what else can we do, man?
Well, this is a company that's afraid to fire anyone. They're afraid to fire anyone or turn anyone heel, or turn the right person heel, which I guess we can get into that new topic.
Sure.
Becky Lynch.
Such a good girl.
Oh, I love her. Like, she's out there saying, fuck everybody, and the whole crowd is saying, yes, we love you. We refuse to hate you. We're never gonna hate you. It's like, well, I just killed a bunch of puppies. Yes. I just set a whole entire school of small children on fire. Yes, we love you.
They deserved it.
They deserved it. They deserve it. And then you hear Charlotte's theme playing, and she like comes in like she's Supergirl or something. And people boo the shit out of her. Yeah. Here's one thing I didn't notice that you pointed out. Whenever Charlotte came out, she's holding up her title, saying, all this for this, and she throws a title down. I'm like, oh shit, I don't even remember that because I was watching it. I guess it happened really quickly. I just didn't see it.
Oh, it was like literally a couple frames, and then they had to pull it back on Becky.
So, from what I heard, I think the company is apparently like thinking, oh shit, we turned the wrong person heel. And I remember you pointed out that they might turn Charlotte into a heel by proxy.
Right.
Kind of like, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, where, Bret Hart was the, I drink my milk and I don't swear and I pay my taxes.
Virtuous baby face.
And then you have Steve Austin come out and be like, fuck all you. And people are like, we like that guy.
Right.
So, now with this feud, it's like, they need to desperately turn Becky into a face, into this badass, I'm against authority babyface.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Charlotte needs to be here's kind of how I pictured it. The way you can turn her heels to have her be condescending. Like, have her and Becky talk, and Charlotte can be like, you want to know the reason why I was added to this match? It's because simply, Becky, you're just not that big enough to carry this feud on your own.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like you're my best friend and I love you, but you're just not that good. Like, just
I'm okay with both of them being faces, though. See, like, if people want to turn on Charlotte by proxy, I'm fine with that. That makes sense because people are so behind Becky Lynch. But I don't think that Charlotte's character should change. Charlotte is still Ric Flair's daughter. She's still a 7-time women's champion. Like, she can stay exactly what she is. And I mean, I know some people responded when I was talking about that. They're like, oh, that'll be confusing for the audience. No, I think if anything, you're going to get a point where, just like Austin and Bret Hart, people are going to draw a line in the sand because, and it was a little simpler with Austin and Bret Hart, but when Bret Hart went back to you know, what was it, Toronto, and they had a match up in Toronto or Montreal or something like that between him and Austin, Bret Hart was God.
Yeah.
You know, here's the guy who's booed mercilessly in the U.S., but you brought him into Canada. The dude was, they had like big flags and they were like throwing flowers at the guy. And I'm like, that's what you need with Charlotte and Becky. And I think that really, when you can have the fans against one another, that's how you know you really got people eating out of the palm of your hand. So by trying to change Charlotte into a heel by doing something, I think he kind of robbed the fans of their choice of who they want to cheer. Because me personally, I've always been a Charlotte guy. I love Charlotte. I think she's amazing. Heel, babyface, whatever. She's one of the better ones. Her, Asuka, a few others too. Becky Lynch to me has always been the Dolph Ziggler of the women's division. Yeah, she can put on great matches. You know, she looks very nice. She's very attractive. She's athletic. She doesn't screw up and, you know, screw up spots or anything like that. But is she ever going to get to the main event? Becky? No. So when that happened at SummerSlam, I was literally floored. It was so much fun to watch because I didn't expect it. Everybody expected Charlotte. I expected Charlotte, you know, and for it to be Becky that flipped out and snapped. And then all of a sudden you start putting the pieces together like, well, yeah, she's pissed off at the company because she hasn't gotten a fair shake. Oh, she's pissed off at the company because her hair isn't blonde like everybody else that seems to be blonde, and she doesn't have big tits. And it's like, wow, you're actually not pointing out anything wrong here, Becky. That is she turned from baby face to bigger baby face to a lot of people, you know? But I think with Charlotte, though, the interesting side of the story comes in where even though it was at 1 second that those few frames where she threw her belt down at the entrance on Tuesday and stuff like that and said, it was all for this, and she throws it to the ground. And then later on, she was crying because she was upset. I'm like, that's what they need to focus on, too. That this whole thing to Charlotte was, yeah, she won the women's title, and she did win it. She won it fair. I mean, it was part of the game. It was part of the match. You win some, you lose some. But for Becky, that was all of her frustrations coming to a boil. And Charlotte, it was just, unfortunately, another day at work. You know, it's just her being better than everyone else. But now that she has her friend, she has to sacrifice her friendship about it. I'm like, that's really deep because there's your storyline. Because technically, Becky's a bad friend. Becky turning on Charlotte like that is a bad friend. You know, so I don't know. That's where I'm kind of stuck with this because I like Charlotte's angle being human and completely crushed that Becky would turn on her when, you know, they've been doing the tea thing and everything else, you know, and now they're enemies based on the belt. So Charlotte's not even fighting about the belt. Charlotte's pissed off at Becky because she turned on her. Like, it's more about the turn than it is the championship. And for Becky, it's Becky threw away the friendship because to her, it's about the championship. You know, they're both fighting each other for different reasons, but obviously both fighting each other, you know. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this. This is one of those that I think the fantasy that we're building up now and believing that WWE is going to handle this in that way is just that. I don't have much faith in WWE creative because the whole heel turn itself was an accident.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I know a lot of people felt that this was not the reaction to Becky is not what WWE expected.
Yeah, because when's the last time you ever saw a heel turn be cheered? Like that whole Brooklyn audience was on their feet cheering for Becky.
Right.
She really deserved it. I was pissed because I was like, she really should have gotten it. They obviously put Charlotte in because the company itself doesn't think Becky is, that big of a star. Where you remember Money in the Bank this past year. Anytime she was climbing up the ladder, Becky, the whole audience was going apeshit. Like, oh, is she gonna get it? She gonna get it? And then you see Alexa Bliss, who was like literally just like a cardboard cutout in that match, just climb the ladder and grab it. So my love for Alexa is kind of like dwindled a little bit, and that's another story. But with Becky, I love Becky. I've always been a fan of hers. I think she should have gotten a better treatment out of all the horsewomen. Charlotte, and deservingly so, has gotten better treatment because there's no way they can bury Charlotte.
Right.
There's just no way. There's certain wrestlers in the company they can't bury. Like Charlotte, AJ, Brock, and at this point, I don't think they can bury Roman, even if they tried. Out of all the horsewomen, they pretty much killed Bayley's career dead.
Yeah, Bayley is a very, very sad story. Bayley is literally in NXT. She was the one that everybody expected to go further almost than everybody else. I kind of thought, even in NXT with the fanfare that she got, she was going to be so much bigger. But due to some silly angles and silly feuds and some bad matches and bad promos, Bayley just fell and kept falling and kept falling. And
with Bayley, it's a combination of, the company. I don't know if the company had it out for her, and they would just give her bullshit, and she's trying her best, and it just didn't stick. Like, do you think it's a combination of the company and Alexa Bliss killing her career?
Well, when they did the whole Bayley, this is your life, and they tried to... The thing that they tried to do with Bayley, which I think really didn't work, was they tried to force feed her as a babyface down people's throats. When they were showing those little vignette clips of her talking about when she was growing up and stuff like that, I understand where the company wanted to go with that, but once again, it was WWE has a real problem with reading the room.
Yeah.
They just, when everybody's standing around Bayley with knives in their hand, maybe you shouldn't try to promote her as a babyface. Maybe.
And I remember that. And I remember that segment.
Yeah.
It's funny. I wasn't watching it. I had the TV on. I was making ramen, and I just hear my TV. I'm hearing it, and the one part of the segment I heard was like, "Yeah, I was Bayley's best friend, but she would have rather watch wrestling than hang out with me." And it's like, so you're basically insulting wrestling fans, saying that she would have rather liked wrestling than hang out with friends. But yeah, they destroyed her career. Sasha's hanging by a thread.
Sasha's career kind of. I think Sasha did a little bit of it to herself, though.
Oh yes, yes.
She's got some attitude issues, behind the scenes and publicly. And as far as her character goes, she was a heel character.
Yeah.
And she turned around into this overly appreciative, psychotically appreciative babyface. Like, oh, thank you. Thank your children and your children's children for me being
Ever since
here.
I was a little girl, I used to like Eddie Guerrero. It's like, ugh.
It was too over the top.
I can just picture Eddie wherever he is, just like, bitch, just stop. We get it. You like me.
Right.
But,
and I mean, that's the thing, too, is that here was a character that everybody loved to hate in NXT, And so when she came up to WWE, they made her like super baby face and everything else like that. And it didn't make sense. It's like, no, we want to hate her. We want her to be the boss. We want her to be a stuck up, arrogant woman that thinks that she's better than she is. And then she does back it up sometimes in the ring. You know, she's gotten really lazy over the last couple of years too, though.
Like with her missed kicks. And I don't know. I'm terrified what they're going to do to Aleister Black. They're going to have
knock
him
on
come
wood.
They're going to have him. They're going to have him come out in a white suit to the freaking theme from the Waltons or something.
I don't know what they're going to do because they can't play up the whole demonic satanic stuff. They can't. They won't do that on the main roster. So what are they going to have him do? Come out as Baron Corbin's buddy?
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Can they fire that guy already?
Yeah, Corbin. I don't know. Their infatuation with Corbin is silly to me, but
it's like I want to ask somebody that works there. What's your infatuation with Baron Corbin? He's tall, and he has tattoos, and he's tall.
I think he's one of those guys that has no problem telling certain higher ups everything they want to hear. You know what I mean? He just strikes me as that kind of guy. I don't know him as a person, but I do think that he's in the right places at the right times, and he says the right things to the people that he needs to.
Yeah, because it's like he hasn't had one good match being in this company. Like, if you
he's had a couple like with him and AJ and stuff like that. But who do you blame? Do you blame Baron Corbin for having a good match, or do you blame AJ Styles? So
like AJ's the new Shawn Michaels, where he can make a broomstick look convincing. But if you can't
right.
if you can't have a good match with AJ, or at least a decent match, then what's wrong? If Jinder Mahal can have a good match with AJ and you can't,
right, then
something's wrong. And they're giving this goofy, I'm a waiter at Olive Garden, Constable Corbin.
He does, man. He really is wearing some wait staff level costume out there. I don't know what's going on with that. That's funny as hell, though.
So, as far as breaking news before we started the show, Neville was officially released.
Yeah, I saw that. Good for him. I mean, I know that the rumor, I think Dave Meltzer said something about it too, that he doesn't have to wait for the 90-day.
Oh.
So I know that people are already going to start clamoring. When is he going to be? Is he going to be at All In?
All In? That'd be interesting. I guess. Go ahead, man.
There's a spot for him. Because, I don't know if you watched the latest Cody Rhodes thing that he does, All Us. He has his own little show that he does called All Us. But, they don't have the final participants for the Battle Royal yet. They don't even know how many people are going to be in there. So there's definitely a chance that there's going to be a lot more people added into this Battle Royal. So when people are curious if that, somebody like Neville will end up at All In, it's very feasible. Like, All In does have a Battle Royal match that they could add a Neville into. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they'd have to go, oh, well, we have to scramble and find you somebody to face in the ring. It's like, no, they kind of have an open pot. So
with All In, are you going to watch it?
Yeah, of course. I might actually, me and Wookie were talking about it. I'm trying to figure it out. I might do a tailgate party beforehand, actually, at the arena at the Sears Center. And might give away some shirts and stuff like that. Have some burrs. Some burrs. Just hang out in the parking lot and, give out posters and flyers and wrestling soup merch and, maybe some wrestling books or whatever else. Like, I don't know. That's kind of the plan. We're winging it now. Obviously, we don't have too much time left. But if we do it, it's just going to be for that because, I don't have a ticket to All In. I do know people that are going to be in there that said that I can probably get in. I don't know if I'm going to take anybody up on that, But just even have a tailgate party is a lot of fun. And then after that, I'd probably we'd go watch it on Fight TV like everyone else and give a coverage afterwards for sure.
It's going to be on Fight TV from what I read. They're going to show like the first, hour on WGN.
Yep.
And the rest is going to be on Fight TV. If I can find a link like a free streaming link, I'll watch it.
Sure.
The one match that looks interesting to me is Kenny versus Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen one Pentagon match, and
Really?
yeah, like with going back to what I said about wrestling, it's just like I'm kind of picky about anything outside of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't watched Impact in like ages. I've watched a couple NJPW because I have access,
Sure.
the Access channel, and I've seen a lot of their like G1 tournaments and whatnot. Pentagon, I've heard so much about. I know Draper loves him.
Yes.
A lot of other people love him, so I'm trying to find a match with him. And
Oh, he's got a bunch on Lucha Underground. I mean, if you want to just take a look, I don't know if you have Netflix.
I do.
Oh, yeah, you can just go to Lucha Underground. You can see tons of his matches. Like, literally, Phoenix and a bunch of other guys, too. So, but, yeah, no, because he was a big part of Lucha Underground for a while there,
So I'll watch that match, and then the Green Arrow guy versus Christopher Daniels.
Oh, Stephen Amell. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Aldis versus Cody Rhodes, believe it or not. And I know it's kind of an oxymoron considering, but I'm really looking forward to it. I know Joe's not a big fan of the NWA and stuff like that, or I don't know if he's a big fan of Billy Corrigan, but I have a lot of belief that Billy Corrigan is absolutely a diehard wrestling fan.
Yes.
He ran Revolution. I think it was Revolution Pro. I always get the name mixed up, or Resor. It was based out of Chicago. I never went to any of the shows. I know Victoria was a part of it, and there was a bunch of other girls and guys that were a part of the company too. But it always kind of flew under my radar, sadly. And this was like in 2010, 2011. But even before that, even in ECW, he took a guitar to the head from Paul Heyman. Billy Corgan hit Paul Heyman in the head with a guitar. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
But he's always been a wrestling fan. So when he got involved with the NWA and he said that he had a 20-year plan and, he's not looking to compete with WWE overnight. So all these people that have that image of him, and he's like, no, that's not me. I'm a wrestling fan and I want to resurrect the NWA. I kind of had a lot of faith in him. Him and Dave Lagana. Dave Lagana, for most people that know or don't know, was a former SmackDown writer during the height. Just during one of the heights of SmackDown's existence. Obviously there's a lot of correlation with Paul Heyman in the 2006 days and stuff like that too. But Dave Lagana was definitely, he was one of the reasons why SmackDown consistently was a good show, giving up a good product, And it's funny because now as wrestling fans today, we look in hindsight as to why is Raw the flagship show when SmackDown seems to be so much better in every way. And I think that's one of the things that we've grown up kind of realizing that, WWE tells us that Raw is the flagship show, but in reality, it's not.
I remember when the draft first happened back in like 2002.
Sure.
Like, SmackDown was always, the must-see show because, when it first happened, you had Brock Lesnar. And then you had guys like Edge and Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, and Eddie Guerrero, Benoit.
Well, it was The Rock's show, too. That was the other thing, too. It was like he was giving his own show,
Yeah. And then, Raw was, the Triple H show, and, can Shawn Michaels finally beat Triple H? It's like, I love Shawn Michaels, but this feud sucks.
Yeah.
So, and, of course, Triple H's reign of terror, being the champion. I'm on top. But, flash forward years later, Raw is the Roman Reigns show, and SmackDown is, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Becky Lynch, the actual, they dump the actual, wrestlers and crowd favorites on SmackDown, and they keep the storytellers and the top names on Raw.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing, though, too, is if somebody gets really hot on SmackDown, more often than not, they're getting moved back over to Raw.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like SmackDown had a habit of really building up people, and then they move them over to Raw, and then they just stink. It's kind of been that way. And, yeah, SmackDown has had some really horrible and goofball storylines, too, but, there's always something that makes them stand out better than Raw, and I think that's something that's been overlooked over the years. But, there was somewhere I was going with that. because we were talking about Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes. Oh yeah, Billy Corgan and everything else like that, and Dave Lagana. That's where I went. So that's kind of why I was into the NWA match to begin with, was because I'm really looking forward to NWA kind of taking that next step into becoming more noticed. Because in my opinion, and I don't know if I talked about this on Thursday or not, I think that Cody Rhodes is going to become champion. I love Nick Aldis. I think I really have a lot of faith in the guy. The guy is a man's man to me, you know.
And he's also with Mickie James, but that's not here nor there.
Well, yeah, and the sexiest woman in wrestling to me, yeah. Besides Tamina.
Hey, we can't forget about Tamina.
That's right,
and her non-pocket jeans.
But Nick Aldis he really has a good character. I know Joey's like, oh, it's just Magnus. I'm like, he carries himself much better than he did then. He really does. He's grown up as a character. He's grown up as an individual, and I really like the way he talks, the way he presents himself. He's a great champion. He reminds me of what champions are supposed to be in a company. Yeah. But Cody Rhodes has the expansion. He has the reach. If Cody Rhodes becomes NWA champion and brings that with him to NJPW and brings it on TV and stuff like that, I think that'll be a very important step in bringing NWA back to life. Now, and I agree with totally 1,000% with Joey when he said, well, the territories aren't coming back. And I'm like, I totally agree. Of course, the territories will never come back. But that doesn't mean that NWA can't survive or begin again with the history that it had from yesteryear. You know, I think that that's a real important thing that we need to kind of hold on to, because even though there's a lot of new feds springing up, and NJPW is obviously a longstanding fed, but there's a lot of new feds, you know, springing up that are changing everything else like that. A lot of the older feds are kind of disappearing. Yeah. And I just kind of have this feeling like, let's not let go of NWA. Can we not let NWA die? So when Billy Corgan brought it back and Dave Lagana brought it back, you know, there was a lot of love from me. So I'm going to be a diehard fan to it because I believe in it. I just, it's totally personal. It's not like I have any, you know, engagement to the company or anything else like that. I just really believe that we can't let the NWA die. Because ROH almost died a couple times. You know, the ROH from back when I was loving ROH in the early days of CM Punk, the early days of the American Dragon and Nigel McGuinness and like all of these guys and early Samoa Joe, that company's kind of almost died a few times.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously you have TNA, NWA TNA, when they got together, that was fantastic. And then all the Hulk Hogan stuff got involved and the Dixie Carter and everything became something different, and it wasn't the same that we remembered it to be. So, you know, it's one of those things, you know, it's just, I'm looking forward to All In for the main event match for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. When, kind of, you know, pulling by what you said, I think corporations are what kind of killed, you know, wrestling companies, you know. With WWE, they've always been a corporation, but with, like, you know, Ring of Honor, they were like, you know, original, they were their own thing. And then Sinclair, you know, bought them, and now they're kind of not necessarily WWE, but they're basically corporate,
right?
Basically, and then, you know, with TNA / NWA, I remember when I first started watching, I'm like, you know, what's this? This is pretty good. You know, you had, you know, the originals like AJ and Samoa and Christopher Daniels.
R-Truth was huge in the NWA TNA days too. Yeah,
Elix Skipper. That's a name you don't hear nowadays. And then you had guys that we knew about, like, you know, Ken Shamrock. You know, everyone hates his guts, Jeff Jarrett. And then Rhino and guys like Kevin Nash.
Sure, Billy Gunn was in there. Conan was in there. Road Dogg was in there for a minute too. Like, they had a bunch of cast-offs from WCW and WWE, and they had their own brand new talent with guys like, you know, Bobby Roode coming up, Sonny Siaki that people forgot about. Monty Brown was a big part of the company. So it was a good amalgamation of all different styles. Plus, the one thing about NWA TNA, or even those earlier days, was they were not afraid to mix different cultures. So when they would have like the World X Cup, which I loved the idea of it, I still think it's depressing that it doesn't really exist anymore. I know that they did something not too long ago that was similar to it, but it wasn't. But the World X Cup was Mexico versus Japan versus Canada versus the U.S.
And I
loved that.
And I remember that because I remember Telemundo, they would have, TNA guys on their show, as part of that. And, with TNA, I think you guys mentioned it before, their downfall was they got too big for their britches, and they thought they were bigger than they actually were, and they kind of strayed away from their formula, which is let's have our own homegrown talent. Granted, AJ came from Ring of Honor, Simone came from Ring of Honor.
Right.
And
but there were other ones though too. I mean, R-Truth didn't do shit in WWE. I know he was technically a WWE guy. He was a tag team guy.
He was K-Quick, Mish. Come on. That was huge.
Right.
And Ron Killings and guys like that. Let's add our seasonal veterans of people that we know. So that way, when people watch our show, they're like, "Hey, I remember that guy. I remember Ken Shamrock." When Christian came in and when Kurt Angle came in, that's when you started to see where they were going. Like, we still have our guys, but we're going to bring in guys that are more known. Where it's like, okay, I get it. Let's keep it the way it is. But then Hulk Hogan came in, and Bischoff came in, and Jeff Hardy, and Rob Van Dam, and it's like these are the saviors of the company. And it's like, as much as I love Jeff Hardy and Van Dam, they weren't marquee guys in WWE.
Right. Well, they lost their vision. Their vision was always these new guys that were really making headway, while there were other stars built by other companies that would still be a part of it. Like, there was a point, and like you said, Christian and Kurt Angle, but then it became the Dudley Boys, Sting, Jeff Hardy. Well, Sting returning anyways. Jeff Hardy, Hulk Hogan, Jeff Jarrett was back on the screen. All these people built up by different companies, and the idea of guys that are being built up by TNA, were gone. They were really, really gone. I mean, America's Most Wanted split up, and it's just everything had changed at that point, and I think they lost their vision, and I think that's when ultimately everything started really suffering, because now you had people from different companies trying to run this company that had nothing to do with those different companies, and it was all political. It was all behind the scenes stuff that ultimately killed TNA, in my opinion. Obviously a lot of financials. It was mommy and daddy that cut Dixie off from the credit cards. Eventually, which I remember when me and Joey reported that, I was laughing my ass off the whole time. I'm like, here's a 40-something-year-old woman or a 45-year-old woman that has her parents cutting off her credit cards. I'm like, how embarrassing is that?
Wasn't there a story? I'd like to say it was Don Tony that might have told it. Where that she would, wear these expensive suits and she still had to put tag in them or something.
Oh yeah, I believe that. That was definitely probably that sounds like a Don Tonyism.
So yeah, don't quote me on it. I'm just like,
Sure.
I remember that story, but now Impact, now it's called Impact, is kind of slowly coming back to prominence. They're kind of going back to their roots. I mean, they're okay. It sucks because they're on Pop TV and I don't have it, which,
right.
And they're streaming on Twitch, which is a good thing. So, if they get on a more recognizable network, I think that could help them. I mean, I'm glad to see that Impact is getting more buzz now. I mean, it's getting a little bit of buzz.
I'm glad that they're getting buzz as Impact and not as TNA. I like the idea that TNA is officially dead. Let's all remember TNA for what it was, and now Impact has become its own entity. Yes, they shared some of the stars from the TNA days, but it's being run completely different. I actually was just talking about the angle that they just did with the OGs versus LAX. and there was an angle that they did where they ran over a kid. The OGs drove by and ran over a kid.
What?
And there was people. Yeah. No, that's just happened, right? And people are up in arms. They're like, "Oh, how can you do that? That's insane. That's too much. Killing a kid. How do you come?" And I'm like, look, first off, for people that are losing their shit about this, the reality is you realize this is a closed set with a director and multiple cameramen, because that's what it was. This is directed by professionals, and it was a cutaway scene in which you don't physically see the kid run over, of course. You're not going to see that. You see the car, you see the kid, and then it comes back to the car, and then you hear people shouting in the background, and then they cut back to the kid who's on the ground. You know what I mean? It's totally, it's a cutaway. It's like, this didn't happen, folks. You got to realize how this is engineered. I'm like, but if anything, they're like, oh, well, when angles involve kids, that disturbs me and stuff like that. And my response was, Braun Strowman bringing Nicholas out to WrestleMania is technically a lot more dangerous than this angle with the OGs running over LAX's kid was. And the reason is because Nicholas was ringside. One accident, one screw up, and Nicholas could have actually been hurt or killed.
Yeah.
One screw up. A movie shot done on a closed set in multiple angles, I guarantee you 100% that kid was nowhere near a car.
Yeah, exactly.
Nowhere near. But people see it and they're freaking out about it. And it's like, and you guys really need to understand how this works, And
that's the one thing that kind of separates, WWE from Impact. At least Impact, they're more honest about who they're trying to be, whereas WWE is like, we're family friendly, but at the same time, let's talk about A, B, C, and D. Let's talk about how to not be a bully, but let's bully people on the show.
Yeah, it's I get it. It's their whole "don't try this at home" shtick turned up to 11. That's what a lot of it is. They're looking for the family response, and I mean, in one sense of it, I do understand, and I probably don't talk about it, but I do understand where WWE is coming from with all this. You have to realize in the 90s and in the early 2000s, they got their shit pushed in by the PTC, by the FCC, by all the different networks and the sponsors that were pissed off at the Attitude Era, that were pissed off at the Ruthless Aggression Era for pushing the envelope. And instead of trying to find a way around it in order to make everything right, in my understanding of it, WWE gave up and just kind of went full family.
Do you think Chris Benoit had something to do with it?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, you're right, and I should definitely throw that in there. Absolutely, you're 100% right. The Chris Benoit situation made things a lot worse. The drug charges and stuff like that. Yeah, it's because there was a bunch of people that got caught up. It was like Edge, Rey Mysterio, like all these people got caught up with these dirty tests. And ESPN or Sports Illustrated, one of those two got on them. But I mean, like, yeah, they were pissing dirty, and then all of a sudden now, the wrestlers have these concussions, and then that movie that came out at the exact same time, everything really did close down on them. And I understand the reaction. I just don't think it was the right way they should have handled it.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, the company should have been just directly honest with everyone and saying, it's unfortunate that these individuals, had these issues and stuff. And as a company, we should get better to take care of them. But this doesn't mean that our product is bad. It doesn't mean that we promote, someone killing his wife and his kid. You know what I mean? Like, but they didn't. They were so afraid. The Nancy Graces were pummeling the shit out of them. And she's just a vulture. I don't know if you've ever seen Nancy Grace.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I know. I know a little bit about Nancy Grace. I can't fucking stand her. Like, I don't remember that episode, but she had Diamond Dallas Page on or something, and
sure,
she was naming wrestlers that died from drugs or whatever, and she had Owen Hart on there, and DDP's like, "You fucking dumb bitch! Owen Hart died in the fucking ring,
right,
falling from a stone gone wrong." So, I mean,
She's shock value that appeals to house moms, and that's a problem because house moms have nothing better to do all day than to write their congressman.
Yeah, pretty much. That's where all this phony baloney outrage comes from. It's from house moms.
True.
And then, you have the husbands that are just like, I'm just agreeing with her, so she'll shut up and let me fuck.
Right.
But,
right. That's our fault. She's right. Why is she right? Because she doesn't shut up if I tell her she's wrong. You're sexist. You're misogynistic. No, I just don't want to fight.
How dare you call me a woman? But you are a woman. I am not a woman. But yeah.
I'm a person.
That's one thing I've always noticed with people like that. I'm like, where is the dad in all this? Why is it always mom? It's like...
I think we've grown tired. I think men as a whole have grown tired of all the bitching. I hate to say it like that. It's probably a bad way to say it, but it's just how it feels. We're just tired of the bitching. So we're just like, whatever. You do you. That's where that phrase came from. You do you.
It's like when I remember being a kid and I used to watch like the garbage, morning TV shows like Maury. And those shows where it's like, my teenage daughter's out of control and I don't know how to control her. And it's like, it's always the same bitch. It's always some upper white class girl. It's like,
catch me outside.
I sleep with 5 men, and when my mom tries to get in my face, I slap that bitch. And I'm just like, where's dad in all this? And dad's just like drinking like, I just want them to stop.
He's got some 7 and 7 going at like 8 a.m. Yeah. I know dads like that.
I remember the funniest one was, I had sex for a cheeseburger. Oh my god.
Our society is completely broken in some ways.
Yeah, like the norm is, with that Cash Me Outside girl, it's like, oh, so disrespecting your mother and acting like a whore is going to make you famous.
Well, that's kind of what YouTube and Twitch has been teaching.
Oh man, that story.
Did you just see that fight that happened like right before we went live?
You mean with Logan
Paul?
I didn't see it, but I've heard about it.
I watched it. I physically watched it. They had somebody, one of the saints over there on Solo Monsters group page, actually was paid for it, and he put up his camera or his phone. I'm not sure if it was a phone or a camera or what. And he just streamed it live on in the Facebook group, and we're just watching it. And it was really bad. It's really bad. And I know they're fighting for, was it the YouTube Heavyweight Championship of the World?
Oh God.
So, yeah, and it's actual belt. And who was it? It was him and what was it KSV? What was his name? Yeah, KSI. Sorry, KSI. But they were fighting for it, and it ended up being a draw. And it was a very bland fight. I mean, what do you expect from 2 YouTube guys? But
I expect competition of it. I don't know. This thing about YouTube is just like, let's give these 2 jerk-offs all the money in the world, but let's demonetize somebody who's just having a video game channel because they showed a little bit of blood.
Yeah.
Or it's like with Wookiee. Like when I listened to the was it the NXT post show?
Yeah.
He said that his did he say his whole channel got blocked or just his streaming got blocked?
His streaming, his ability to stream, but that's what he does. That's all he does is stream. So like all the videos that are on his channel are usually former streams. So
yeah, like he immediately went to Twitch, and Twitch was like, yeah, you want to work with us? We'll give you money. It's like, yeah, sure.
Right.
And I remember telling my girlfriend about that, about YouTube, and she was like, what the fuck? That's like, why? It just, I don't get YouTube. Like a lot of these like cool apps, whenever they had corporations kind of stick their hands in it, that's when they became lame. Like, Snapchat. Snapchat was fun.
Sure.
It was goofy. It's like, hey, look at me. I have doggy ears. I have a tongue. Blah blah blah. And then corporations, were like, oh, by the way, let's add news filters. What's Justin Bieber doing? It's like, I don't give a fuck what Justin Bieber's doing.
Right.
Let me do my cat ear filters, God damn it. You know, or same thing with Vine. Vine was fun, but
Sure.
well, you know what? With Vine, I can understand why they had to push back a little bit because people were using Vine to make porn.
Yeah.
And I believe there was actually like people like that were underage doing it.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of issues with that too, obviously.
So I accidentally
But
stumbled.
I mean, a lot of them, you're right. The corporations step in and they have their own bottom line and their own ideas of how they want to make money through these different, services and apps and everything else like that. And they completely lose track of why people enjoyed the damn thing to begin with.
Like with Vine, this I forgot to mention this. Vine ended because it was kind of similar to TNA. People got too big for their britches. A lot of people that were on Vine, like comedians, if you want to call them that, they wanted more money for it, and that's what kind of ended Vine.
Sure.
Like one of them being Logan Paul, Jake Paul. Apparently, they wanted $2 million from Vine. Because I don't know if this name rings a bell to you, Brandon Calvillo.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, he was a guy on Vine. He's actually pretty funny. I think you'd enjoy him. He's one of those few people that just treated Vine the way it should have been, which is like, hey, we're just on here to make goofy videos. We're here to have fun. We're not here to abuse it. And he actually has his own podcast now. It's called I'm Sorry, Dad. And he, I think on one of his first shows, on his first show, he actually called out people on Vine saying, listen, you guys abuse Vine. You know who you are. You made it bigger. You made it out to seem like it was like more of a stepping stool for you. Right. But, you forgot where you came from. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it comes to all these apps is that it's not just the corporations, it's the people within it that abuse it.
Sure. Yeah, totally. I think that's one of the biggest issues is that it does get abused. Like, ideas are no longer just limited to the app itself. Now it's the ideas need to make money for people in order for it to be considered, a viable reason to use the app, which is just kind of backwards. It's like you should reward creativity instead of rewarding whorism. Reward shilling.
It's like
we've always been like that, dude. We've been doing Wrestling Soup forever, and the one thing, and me and Joey both agreed on this even back in 2010. The one thing that we weren't going to do is ever shill.
Yeah.
Our show has only grown based upon mainly word of mouth and our direct show friends, like direct shows. Yeah, of course. I'll bring up the Adriari show, of course. I'll bring up Wookie. I'll bring up DT. I'll bring up Kevin Castle. And of course I do that. But that's not, to me, that's not shilling.
Yeah.
When you're paying for ads on the internet, when you're paying for Facebook ads, when you're paying for YouTube ads, when you're taking it, I know it works for some people, but I mean, we've always tried to avoid that. It just seemed dishonest to us, and I know that some shows have gotten bigger because of it and good for them, but I really believe in an organic way to grow the show, and even though I kind of come from radio, my background and stuff like that, I don't like the radio. I don't. It's really weird to say the way that radio conducts itself is garbage in 2018. It's very narrow-minded. It's very closed off. The ideas that radio are still producing today are the same ideas that they were producing in the 70s.
Yeah.
There's no room for growth, and sadly, it's a very plastic version now than what it used to be. Now, it doesn't matter what your experience is. It doesn't matter unless you're like a movie star or a rock star or something like that. As long as you're pretty enough, you can be in radio. Nobody ever sees you, but as long as you're pretty enough, you can be in radio. And it's just it's an ugly lesson there, but I
don't know. I'm the opposite. I would whore myself out just something. Yeah. I do the same things as you guys. You guys have been doing this longer than me, and I'll still give shout outs like, hey,
sure.
Boys Are Wrestling Soup, GTKC, and, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Podcast Master Wrestling. I have a couple friends that are actually, they want to do their own podcast, and there's a friend of mine who actually just started his his Spreaker account, and he.
Oh.
It's weird thing. It's a weird thing. He's still paying for it, but he hasn't actually done a show yet. I'm like, dude, just start your show already. He's like,
yeah, just do it. Just jump out there, man. I mean,
yeah, I'm like, just talk. He's like, well, I need to find time. I'm like, dude.
First step is the hardest. It really is, though.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. I mean, like, when I first started my show, it was just like, what the fuck am I going to talk about?
Right.
And something came up during the day. I was like, I'll talk about that for like 15 minutes. See what happens with that. And I just talked, and that was it. And I was like, wow, I was actually able to talk for more than like 5 minutes.
Right.
So I've gotten.
It's all about passion too, though. I mean, if there's something that's not just popular news. I know a lot of people just reflect on popular news of the day, but if there's something that you're passionate about, a topic or something in your life, a hobby, an idea, these are the things that translate very, very well to podcasts, because people will listen to you. And since they're not looking at you, they're listening to you. That's the only negative about video.
Yeah.
I think there's a positive about video and there's a negative about video. The positive about video is people can see how you say things, so they can visually grasp exactly how passionate or emotional you are when you're discussing a certain topic. Like, you can just tell. But the negative side to video is sometimes people are only paying attention to what you look like when you're saying something, as opposed to hearing just what you're saying, which is where podcasts come in, and why I still love doing audio. I know we're going to be doing video soon, but that's why I still love doing audio, is because people will sit down and listen to you. Or even if they have you on in the background, they hear you. And a lot of us are more, like, I don't know, some people are more visual. I'm more of an audio type of person. I listen to music all the time. Everything I do, there's got to be some noise in the background. Even if all I do is, like I said, with the movies, even where I'll toss on a movie. Yeah, I've seen it technically, but I was doing something else on my phone. I'm still listening to the movie. I'm still hearing people getting ripped up in Cabin of the Woods, Cabin in the Woods. But at the same point, I don't have as much attention paid onto it because I'm doing other things, because it's not locking me in. But if you're talking about something and you're passionate, and the other thing that's really something amazing about podcasts versus even radio is that you can talk to the individual person on a podcast. On radio, it always feels like it's a blanket statement. We're talking to Kansas City, we're talking to Chicago, we're talking to Boston. This is radio for everyone. But on a podcast, even though it reaches the same areas, obviously it reaches worldwide as a podcast, because it's usually an individual person or persons, like a couple people, unless it gets crazy. I've seen some of those. We've got 6 people on the line shows, but that gets a little goofy.
Yeah.
But if it's like 1 or 2 people and they're talking and having a conversation, you feel like you're more involved with that conversation, because you're listening to an idea or 2 sets of ideas brought in a very personalized kind of way. I don't know. To me, that's what I love about podcasts. And that's why I always try to help out anybody that ever has a question that I can help out with. They're like, oh, I don't know how to do a podcast. Well, have you tried such and such? And I don't charge $400 like some people do. Which is no, I don't know if he does. No, but there's other wrestling shows out there that have been charging people, Chris Cash, $400 for a while now, and it just, I don't know if he still does it. I know he used to do it, but it was ridiculous to me. It's like, that's disgusting. So you're trying to make money off of a medium that's based on personality, on personal, voice and personal, you know what I mean? Like, if he was doing that to teach people how to do radio broadcasting, I would have never said a word. Never would have said anything, because I understand the difference between going to a station and broadcasting through a station, doing production and stuff like that. I totally understand that. But podcasting is more personal, and I love the fact that it's grown up. I love the fact that now, in 2018, getting actual advertisers and sponsors is not as difficult as it was in 2010. I mean, everybody starts from somewhere, of course, but it's not as hard. It's nowhere near as hard, and a lot more people are accepting of the work and there's a lot more people that are willing to help you. You can go on a YouTube video now and see like 50 or 60 videos of how to hook up a mix minus setup so you can run your podcast through Skype and take calls.
Yeah.
There's people out there now willing to help, whereas 2010, or I should say even 2006, 2005, when I started podcasting technically in 2002, but 2005, 2006, which is when I made Revolution Radio, which was long gone. That was a totally different setup, and there was nobody to help me, so I had to discover all this shit on my own. So that was a pain in the ass. But yeah, I just love the medium, man.
I don't know, like I'm, and again, this isn't me trying to like kiss up, but it's just like I'm glad that I'm able to talk to you whenever, anytime I have a question about my show. The show's been going on for 7-8 months. I'm grateful that I can say, hey man, I have a tech question, or hey man, A, B, C, and D. You always know your shit. You know your shit. You've been doing this a lot longer than me.
Oh, there'll always be people that know more than me, though, too. That's another thing about humility. You have to understand that there's always going to be somebody that knows way more shit than you do. So I'm not like, I'll never be the be-all, end-all. But I'm passionate about what I know,
It's always, like and there you go. You hit the nail on the head with that word, passion. When you can find someone that's, passionate about something as you, that's, you're always, you're going to be all right. I'm fucking up my words. You're one of the first people, to help me out when I had a question about the show, about starting my show. I know Trez was.
Sure.
That's about it. I asked a few other people. I said this to you before. If I can at least have like maybe a fraction of your success, that would help. I emulate this show after shows I already listened to, like yours, like Hardwick's,
Sure.
Jericho show, Kevin Smith's podcast. I'm not sure how you feel about Kevin Smith.
Smodcast. I love Smodcast. Yeah, Kevin Smith was there when me and Kevin Smith was there, but we didn't get to see Kevin Smith. But Kevin Smith's people hung out with us at the Stitcher Awards back in 2012. So we were hanging out with them because when we got up there for the awards, it was flattering enough for me and Joey to be in San Francisco for that. But we got to hang out with them. We got to hang out with Mark Maron, obviously, big time name. First guy to ever interview a president on a podcast.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like he interviewed him in his own garage, right?
No.
How does that happen? Like how can you make that happen?
Oh, Mark Maron he was a successful comedian before that and stuff like that too. And he's always kind of been a very solid voice. Obviously, most people, if they don't know who Mark Maron is, they'll probably know him from watching him on Glow, the series. He plays the con artist promoter.
I haven't watched season 2 yet.
Oh, it's worth it. It's worth the time. It's all right. There'll be a couple parts where people are like they remade an entire episode of Glow from like the TV series, and they redid it with the actresses and stuff like that for Netflix. But it's fun. It's cool. There's a lot worse television I've watched out there. It's good, and I'm looking forward to season 3. So
there's that. There's like, I don't know. I have too many shows on my plate that I'm way behind. Glow. I haven't watched Orange Is the New Black, the new season, which I'm just like, it's one of those things where it's like, do I really want to watch it? Because it seems like the show should just die already.
That's happened with a few of them. Walking Dead is kind of like that. I'm like 2 or 3 seasons behind Walking Dead.
I remember, Kevin Smith had the perfect way to describe Walking Dead. They were talking about, Andrew Lincoln leaving, and he's like, "Is Negan still on there?" And Mark Bernardin goes, "Yes." He's like, "Yeah, tell me when he's gone."
I feel the same. Wow, I'm kind of surprised you said that because I feel exactly the same way.
Like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I like him as an actor. He's a really good actor.
He seems like a nice person too.
He seems like a good dude. Like
Right.
I remember him from Supernatural, and he was in Watchmen. He played the comedian.
Right.
He's just not good as he like. I'll put it to you this way: he can play a smarmy kind of douchey villain.
Mm-hmm.
But Negan, you would picture him more as like a kind of jacked, smarmy jackass who's intimidating. Because, funny story about Negan, he was made to look after Henry Rollins, but Henry Rollins never got a call to audition.
Oh. Yeah, Henry Rollins would have been intense. He would have been you want to talk about an intense individual. That would have been an intense role for him. I always kind of looked at Negan like a good old boy, though.
Yeah.
Like a trucker, like one of those good old boys. So that was always my image of Negan. So when, he popped out, the Negan for the Walking Dead TV series popped out, I was just kind of like, doesn't sit well with me. It was totally against smiling and happy. I'm like, nah, I'm thinking gruff trucker guy that hates the world, hates his family, hates himself. That was kind of the feeling I had, which would have been just fine. It's just, I don't know. Didn't really enjoy the series after Negan. I think I watched the first season with him in it. I think that was like, season 6, 7? Something like that.
I don't watch the show anymore. I'll just see the clips online and
right.
Carl's dead, and Andrew Lincoln's leaving. I'm like, you might as well just end the show after that.
Right. Yeah. There's not much you can do without Rick.
So we all love Daryl, but Daryl can't carry a show.
Which he's an interesting character too, because I know a lot of people love their Daryl. Yeah. Holy shit, that guy probably has more love than Rick, I would think. It's just, but yeah, you're right. You can't run the whole show through, because he's not that guy. I could see them doing a spin-off with Daryl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But running the whole show with all the different character arcs and stuff.
So there's too many shows that probably should have ended a while back.
Sure.
And I don't know, I think Walking Dead may have started this trend of we're going on longer than we should, that show 13 Reasons Why. Whereas I watched that show because it was just I kind of begrudgingly watched it.
Right.
And I watched the first season, and I thought the first season was okay, and then they made a second season. And I remember somebody promoted it as see Hannah like you've never seen her before. I'm like, not you mean not dead? So I had to begrudgingly watch that.
Yeah.
And now they're making a third season. I'm like, why are they making a third season when the actress who played Hannah, she said, I'm not going to be back for season 3. So it's just then what's the point of this season, of this whole series, It's just more high school drama. It's see blah 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 you've never seen them before. I'm like, oh my god, stop saying that. So I don't know. Oh yeah, and then this will probably make people mad. Never got into Game of Thrones.
That's all right. I understand it. Game of Thrones is probably one of my favorite TV series of all time. I think it's fantastic. I think the last season was a little rough. Obviously, the story isn't completed yet, so they were put in a weird predicament. The directors, without James, or not James. I was going to say James O'Barr. No, that's the Crow. Why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden?
George R. Martin.
George Martin. Thank you. Yeah, because George Martin hasn't finished the book yet, so the actual definitive ending is still unknown or unclear. I don't necessarily dispute anyone that doesn't like the show or can't get into the show, because it's definitely a lot of politics. There's some fun killing you're missing. There's a lot of blood, a lot of sex, but the politics, I can totally get where people don't want to listen to that and try and get into that, because it does get very soap opera-y. But
you're fine.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely, it's more than just a hack and slash show. It's not something you can watch lightly. It's something you literally have to pay attention to everything that goes on, because everything makes sense down the road. Sometimes it even takes more than one season for some of these things to pay off. So it's not only do you have to pay attention, but you have to remember everything that went on, or else you're going to be completely lost. And then, of course, there's the book people too that are absolutely enthralled with the book, and they followed the TV show because of the book that they enjoy. So I'm only a TV series guy. I read the first book, but I haven't read any of the other ones. But I'm actually, as many books as I usually do read, I'm more interested in the TV series. The TV series paints a better picture to me than the books do. The books feel, or at least the first book feels a little mechanical. It doesn't have like the charm that like a Lord of the Rings does, when it comes to fantasy and stuff like that. And I think the reason that the book is so mechanical is because there is so much political points and political backstabbing and stuff that's attached to it. Like everything is based upon name and kin and this kingdom versus this kingdom, and this kingdom was conquered by this kingdom before this time, and et cetera, et cetera. And then, it gets really deep to where you're not just caring about these individual characters. You have to know why they're the characters, and the reason that they're the characters is based upon where they were raised, and what's the difference between being raised north of the wall versus being raised in Davros. It's just, there's different points to it that almost makes it too complex, but the TV show is a little bit more light about it, and it's a little bit more visually stimulating. And I mean, obviously everybody's read a good book. So, when you read a book, you already have an imagination building up what these characters look like in your head, and so the TV series does a really, really solid job of taking the ideas that were implanted in the books and putting them on the screen. And fucking Hadley is just an absolute goddess. She's the perfect evil queen, Cersei, and I just feel like the series did really well for itself, but I totally understand why, you're not into it. So that's cool.
That's the thing about HBO. They make really good shows, but
yes.
Their shows are kind of like mini movies. Like each episode's like a mini movie. Like,
yes.
Like True Detective. First season of True Detective, I was hooked. It seemed like every episode was like, here's part 1, and then here's the sequel, and here's a sequel after that. It's not like,
right.
here's episode 3. It's like, no, here's the third sequel to the first one. And I acknowledge they're all very good shows. They're all very well done. They have a great cast. They have great acting. But it's just hard for me to get into it. Sure. I know you're a huge fan of this show, Westworld.
I love the Westworld. Yes.
I tried. I watched maybe 3 episodes. It was like, I get it. It's just not for me.
Sure.
So
well, everybody has their archetype. I mean, I'll enjoy sci-fi more than I'll enjoy horror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I know people that absolutely live and die by horror. Like I'll like action flicks a little bit more than I do rom-coms, obviously. That's all what it is. It's all personal preference, which is nice.
So, yeah, I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, man. Good times.
Yeah, I'm about to break my record. I was going to ask you this earlier when we were talking about Cap. What's your overall opinion on Chris Evans as Captain?
He's fine. I enjoy him. He looks the part. He looks like a young Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He does a good job of it. He was a good casting. Like there's some bad castings that have happened in the Marvel and in the DC universe, but he's one of the better ones. I have no problem with him. I don't know if he's going to continue doing Cap for a very long time. From what I understand, he's kind of on his way out.
Apparently Avengers 4 is his last, and Cap more than likely will die in it.
Right.
Like, it's going to be kind of reminiscent of the comics where he fights Thanos, and Thanos kind of pins him down and just, like, beats him to death. And, because they put out, like, Avengers theories, like, Part 4 is going to deal with time travel.
Sure.
Like, based off of what happened in Ant-Man and the Wasp and, a little bit in Doctor Strange, there's going to be a lot of time traveling. And they're basically, like, going to go back to different parts in different movies and, like, take Infinity Stones, and Tony Stark's going to make his own Infinity Gauntlet. And Thanos is going to notice that, and he's going to go after him, and A, B, C, and D, and that's where you have Captain Marvel come into the equation. So, a lot of actors, from what I read, only 2 of the OG Avengers in the MCU are gonna stay on.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's gonna be Black Widow because they're doing a Black Widow movie. And possibly Hulk.
Oh, okay. That'll work too.
Downey, I don't know what they're going to do with the character. They might as well, the way I see it, they should just retire Tony Stark, kind of like what happened in Dark Knight Rises, where, Bruce Wayne faked his death, but he was really, living it up in, another part of the country.
Right.
But, they should kind of do it with, Tony Stark, he fakes his death, but he's really alive somewhere. He just wants to just enjoy life.
I can see that. Yeah.
And, there's talk that there's going to be a new Avengers lineup after that with Strange, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man.
Well, that's the biggest... It's funny because that seems like it's the biggest issue right now. Isn't necessarily the fact of Marvel making good storylines. It's the fact that their actors keep getting older and the storylines can't catch up to the actor's age, look at what they did with Logan. Yeah. I think if they could have had Hugh Jackman for the next 30, 40 years, they totally would. You know what I mean? Marvel would have not stopped using Hugh Jackman if it wasn't for the fact that Hugh Jackman's getting up there in age. Same with Patrick Stewart and same with what's his name that plays Magneto?
Ian McKellen?
Yeah, Ian McKellen, right. Yeah.
That's the one thing about this Fox Disney deal is that, yay, the MCU is whole, but now we have to see a whole new actors play these roles.
Right.
Where it's just can Hugh Jackman just come out for 5 minutes and do something? He can just come out for 5 minutes and just say, "Hey, bub," and just start beating ass.
Well, they need to find somebody very impressive to replace him. That's what they need to do.
That's the thing. Who can... I know you've said before you weren't really a huge fan of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Right.
But, there's really nobody else that could fill that role the way he did.
He's cornered the market on it. So, the messed up thing is that now they're going to have to get another Wolverine, but it's not going to be a Wolverine based on... They're either going to do one of two things. They're going to go completely left field with the Wolverine, hopefully not something silly like, changing Wolverine to a female. I know that Disney likes doing stuff like that, and there has been discussions of that on forums and stuff. But
Wolverine is a vegan. No,
right. Well, but at the same point, they're either going to have to go left field, which I was thinking post Wolverine 75, where he became really buff and jacked, but he didn't have his adamantium anymore because all of his adamantium was sucked out. But he had bone claws for hands and stuff like that. So they're either going to go down that route where they can just find some kind of musclehead, somebody with a big physique to cover that role, or they're going to try and have to find somebody that looks just like Hugh Jackman. It's a weird paddle to be up by. So it's either go completely left field or where's Hugh Jackman's son?
It's cast his stepbrother, Jew Hackman.
Yes. That Gene Hackman's brother? That sounds like Gene Hackman's little boy.
Maybe it is. I think one actor who looks like he could fill that role and also could pull off the suit is Carl Urban.
Carl Urban?
I'm sorry. I have a hard time with certain letters. Carl Urban.
Oh, Carl Urban. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So, but I don't know. It's it would have been.
He's got the facial structure a little bit. He's got a little Hugh Jackman-ish. A little bit.
Or you can cast Tom Hardy and have him talk in his horrible American accent.
He's up there, though, too. He's 46.
Or Josh Brolin, since he's in everything, apparently.
Josh Brolin.
That dude's making serious bank this year.
That's all that matters, right?
So,
all right. I'm sorry. Come on.
Talking to your cat?
Yeah, he's literally sitting on my microphone cord, and I'm like, "Come on, dude, you're fat, and you're causing my head to jump."
Yeah, I've had shows where one of my cats will just try and climb on the keyboard, and they've actually done that before. I'm just like, dude, get the fuck off. And yes, we have too many cats.
Well, I think he's hungry though. I gotta feed him. I gotta feed his fat butt soon. So
we feed them, but then they act like they haven't ate in like a week, like an hour later.
Preaching to the choir, man. See, my dumbass. I actually taught my fat cat, how to open doors. And when I taught him, he was young, and I'm like, "Oh, this will be cool." I taught the cat how to open doors, but now I have like a door on my desk, like right here, that's next to me, and it's usually closed. But now when he wants attention or he wants food, he'll come up and he'll start slamming the door. It's like, stop that, shut up, I see you, you're right here. And it's really loud. And he'll do it in the middle of the show. Like people will hear like the slamming and stuff like that. I'm like, that's my fucking cat, don't worry about it. Like they'll think people are coming into my house behind me. And I'm like, no, I just have a fat cat that wants food.
It's like, that's even worse.
Right. But it's been a pleasure being on here today, man. Thank you very much for having me on. I had a good time.
Yeah, man, I had a great time too. It's like there was a point when you were talking where I kind of got lost because like I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean just like because I've been listening to you guys, for a while. That
sure.
I'm hearing you talk, and I'm like, wow, this is a really good episode of Soup. I'm like, oh shit, this is my show.
No, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you for being on the show, taking time, and you're always welcome back on here, brother.
Oh, much love, man. Yeah, no, and I'll be more than happy to post this up. I think people enjoy some of our banter, and hopefully we can get some new people to check out the Drew Yari show.
And now you seem to get me on Soup. What? Who was that?
For sure, man. But I'm going to hang up. Much love. Thank you very much. And I guess I'll see you soon.
All right, man. Take care, brother.
Take it easy, Drew.
You too, man. All right. Wow. 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's a new record. I'll be sure to edit. I will edit this and I will post it by the end of the night. You know the whole spiel. Catch us on Spreaker. That's our home base. Google Play, iTunes, Castbox. I don't know why it's on there. Spotify, Podbean, and now Stitcher is another new home for us. So I appreciate those who submitted their questions. Next show, I'm not sure when that is. Our show schedule has been kind of different since I started school. So we're just basically kind of playing it by ear. This is an amazing show. Loved it. You guys are going to love it. So take care.